Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of FPL BlackBox. It's episode 40, Mark. We've made it to the big 4-0. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling all right. I'm feeling quite refreshed, actually. I'm looking forward to the season. It's been a strange day for me
You look
today.
fresh. You've had a shave and a haircut.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. What is, new season. I'm trying to get a kind of fresh new look just for the last few days before Friday's deadline. It's funny, today I've been so busy at work, I've not really had time to think about my FPL team. So I haven't done any tinkering at all. So what I'm showing tonight is the team I had yesterday. And I think I'm making about, 6.7 changes per day? What would you say your rate was at the moment?
Well, I was pretty set. And then some things have happened. Simicast has landed. And that's kind of opened up whole new pathways for me. So It was, I'd say I was on zero for like a week. And then the last few days have been back to Tinkertown.
It was a big event, wasn't it, when when the Robertson injury came through, and it became obvious that Simicast will be the starter at left back. We think, it's funny today. There was a story about Milner definitely starting, but
you were panicking, weren't you?
I was, because I was like, well, I've kind of changed everything based on Simicast being at left back, and if Milner's going to be in the team, where's he going to play? And it looks like it is going to be midfield because of the lack of senior players there as well. That's how you feel about it, anyway, don't you?
I do. He's played midfield all pre-season, so I don't think there's too much to worry about. And Tsimikas has been good, right? Got an assist for Firmino the other night, and he looks like a bit of a gift for 3 or 4 weeks. But we know how these gifts often turn out, and we'll probably be. This is going to end up on a black box lesson somewhere down the line, isn't it? I think if we end up going for him. Just before we stop the show, I would just like to first of all thank everyone for listening. I mean, I don't know if you saw, Mark, we hit like 40,000 views on the last black box. Which is like by far our most ever views. So thank you so much, everyone who watches and listens. On podcasts, on YouTube. We talk about YouTube, but we appreciate all the podcast listeners as well. So thank you for that. Also, the Apprentice videos. We've had over 10,000 views on those with Nat the other day, and all the support she's had has been amazing. All the tweets she puts out, and all the followers she's got, and all the questions she's had answered. So I just want to thank everyone for that. Really, it's been a great pre-season, I think, for us too.
It has, and the Apprentice. I got Henry's new team today, actually, and I'm feeling a bit more confident now. I think because he's had access to the FBL content on the site, and he's obviously picked up some tips from there. That's all he's had access to, but it's looking a bit more healthy. So I've got a video with him tomorrow, which I'm doing, which will be going out tomorrow evening. So that'll be the next Apprentice video. So
nice.
Look out for that.
To that. See what's been. Maybe he's been sunning himself on holiday, isn't he?
Yeah,
I expect him
to be. Yeah, and that's been hitting Excel on the FFS members area, and Henry's been sunning himself. So I expect him to rally this week because it's crunch time. It is crunch time for all of us, of course. And tonight we've got a busy show. It was funny, in the week we were like, oh, what are we going to cover? And then last minute I've unearthed some quite interesting data on the top 20 of last year. So we're going to look at that first off.
You say it like it's a surprise. This always happens.
Always happens. Something out of the bag.
We say let's have a pretty informal show tonight. Let's just wing it. We'll be all right. And then you're like, oh, actually, I've got about 15 different topics that we've got to cover tonight, and here we are.
Well,
so
I didn't think
strap yourselves in, everyone.
I did. I suddenly realised that at the end of last season, I went in and used Ragabolly's live FBL tool to capture all of the top 20's data, and I thought to myself, I don't know what I'm going to use that for, but at some point I will. And this is it. Tonight we're going to show you the top 20, and interestingly we built the template team. So this is the top 20 managers of last season, exactly what they did in game week 1, the template that those 20 managers put together for game week 1. And we're also going to look at, rather depressingly, what rank the average rank that they got in game week 1, and which kind of says
we touched on it last season, didn't we?
You don't win FBL in game week 1, but you kind of lose it, don't you?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And just a final thing before we get into that, I just want to do another final push for the Black Box League. I really, really, really want us to get into the top 5 leagues. It might not be this season.
You're determined, aren't you? Yeah.
But at some point, I want to see FPL BlackBox on that top 5. So the code is VJNG38. There's a link in the description. I mean, if we get 40,000 people watching and you all join that league, I think we stand a fairly decent chance. So, yeah, everyone join the league before Friday.
The winner might be out there. The winner of FPL might be watching and listening right now. So,
might be us.
Join our league. Maybe not. What else we're going to do tonight? We're going to look at the pre-season form. We're going to talk to you a bit about that. We've got a bit on the promoted teams as well. There's been an excellent thread in the community this week about that. So we basically just burgled that. And thanks to FBL Nick, he's given us some of the data he put together for that.
I tell you, that thread has changed
your mind, hasn't it?
A lot of things for me, yeah.
I'd already changed my mind on Toney, actually, before that, but that's kind of underlined it a bit. And then we got some of your questions as well, because you went into the community and said, ask us some questions and we'll cover them tonight and we'll try.
Well, what I was trying to do was, I didn't want to do any prep. I thought, we can win this night. I'll get the community to do the work. We got the community to do the work, and then you went out and did some work anyway. That's not how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, I was actually.
There's some good questions though.
Yeah, there are. I was in bed with the laptop last night, putting the top 20 stuff together. I'm like, this is gold. We've got to do this. We've got to look at this. It's really interesting. And it's also good to reminisce on how we felt this time last season as well. Because BlackBox is all about learning, not just about ourselves, but also from other managers, and that's what we're going to try and do.
Well, you remember the team I showed on the last BlackBox before the season started would have got about 30 points more than the team I ended up with.
Right. And you know what? That's crucial. There's a certain tool that we've got this season that we didn't have last season that's going to help us with that, and I'll talk about that.
And also ruin our lives.
And ruin our lives, yeah. There is that. But yeah, it's quite exciting what Ragabolly has done for us. So we'll talk about that at the end of the show. Let's crack on, shall we? Right. So as I said, what I've done here is looked at last season's top 20. They're listed in this screen here in no particular order, so I'm not sure who came where. I know Michael Kune won it, of course, so he's at the bottom of the list there. So what I did, I captured the game week rank of all the top 20 managers last season in game week 1 and found that the average rank for the top 20 managers was 616,472. So in other words, that's what we should aspire to. If we're going to win it, we've got to, after 1 week, we've got to be in the top 600,000 basically. And interestingly, after 3 game weeks, the average rank between them was 397. So they all went up. Now, interestingly, 77.5 was their average score in game week 1, and the game week average in the game was 50. So that's well above the average these guys did. So it kind of does support the idea that you've got to get a good start. Having said that, I got 80 points game week 1, and I was in the top 230,000. And then I had an absolute disaster with Son and Kane at Southampton, as we both did. And I think I ranked like 6 million in that game week and then dropped to 2 million and something and never got it. Took me ages to get it back. But these guys obviously didn't. What you can see here is that, in the screen we're showing, we had, some amazing starts. Neil McNamara was ranked 31,000 in the world after scoring 95 points. He then dropped back a bit to 213,000. But Ola was 488 in the world after 3 game weeks. And then obviously went on to be number 1 for ages until the end when Michael Kuhn turned him round. So this data is all well and good. We know this is kind of like the benchmark. But what I wanted to look at is who these guys picked in the first game week. So in other words, what did the top 20 manager template look like in the first game week? Go on.
Can I just spot a few things that I've noticed from this list just before we move on to that?
Obviously.
So only 3 of these managers were outside the top 1 million after game week 1. There was some pretty massive rank rises for some people. I mean, Ola went from 151,000 to 488, which is amazing. But there was some dips as well from people. I mean, if you look at Aaron, he went from 773,000 to 1.4 million. Ray Freeman went from 424,000 to 1.3 million. So
look at Heidmar.
Some of them, and Heidmar is I mean, that is a hell of a rank, isn't it?
Well, he only got 4 million
game week 1.
He got 39 points in game week 1. Now, there'll be people who get that this week who go, I'm giving up, logging out. And yet he finished in the top 20 after getting 39 points. That's hope.
So it's grim reading if you have a bad game week, but there is hope.
In the shape of Heidmar,
a shred of hope from Heidmar.
Yeah, but then he did have an incredible next 2 game weeks to end up being 52,000 by game week 3.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I think he had Calvert-Lewin, Son and Kane, and must have captained Son, I guess. I think I didn't look at
apart from Ola, though, there's no one he's the only one in the top 1,000. I think he's the only one in the top 10,000. Yeah, he is. He's the only one in the top 10,000 come game week 3. So,
So
there.
don't be flipping the table if you only get 39 points in game week 1, but we don't plan to do that, of course. So then what I did do is look at the teams that they selected, and I did a spreadsheet, collected the 20 teams, looked at who was in the most teams, and collected it here. And this is the game week 1 template last season for the top 20 managers in the world, right? Who finished in the top 20.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah. But what's interesting is, there's two tables, two parts of this table.
Do you want to just read it out for the podcasters?
Yeah, sure. McCarthy in goal, who was owned by 14 of the 20 managers and who had 24.6% ownership in the game at the time. Alexander-Arnold, 18 of 20 managers. Justin, 14 of 20 managers. Walker-Peters, 8 of 20 managers. So there was a bit of difference in defence. Most people had Alexander-Arnold and Justin, and then Walker-Peters and Saïs was in some. Mitchell, some people started with Mitchell, but those two are on the bench. Salah in 18 of 20 teams. Aubameyang, 18 of 20 teams. Sam Maximin, 14 of 20, which is a big surprise. He was a real bandwagon, wasn't he? Son was in 11 of 20, and he's the one who did the damage to me and Az in game week 2, of course, and 3, 4, 5. Up front, it was Mitrovic in 11 of 20, Werner in 13 of 20, and Calvert-Lewin in 9 of 20. Calvert-Lewin was kind of like the secret weapon because he's the only player in the 11 who has less than 10% ownership. And on the bench, he's... Go on.
Yeah. I was going to say that's like, 8 players from the template that was last season. I mean, McCarthy was, Trent was, Justin was in a lot, Salah, Aubameyang, Maximan was, Mitrovic, Werner. Like that's that. Everyone's talking about the template for this season, but the template for last season, it wasn't amazing for everyone, but still led to strong. Well, very, very strong.
Well, it led to the top most successful managers, the 20 most.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the lesson to learn from this. I looked at this. The idea of this exercise was to see how many risks the top 20 took in game week 1. And the answer is not many at all, because the template only shows Calvert-Lewin as the only player who was popular with less than 10% ownership. And interestingly, I had 7 of this template and you had 7. So we took a few risks. Like you had Havertz. Yeah, you had Havertz. I think you had...
I didn't have 7 of those.
I did, because I've got your team here. So let me go. I can go for your team if you like. I've got it here. So
Trent, Salah, Aubameyang,
you had Walker-Peters, you had Alexander-Arnold, you had Basuma.
Did I?
Yeah. You had Basuma. You had
Aubameyang,
you had Salah. Yeah, counting the bench, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So 7 of the 15 you had. But you had the likes of Pereira, you had Ings, who was a risk, kind of. Basuma you had, of course. You had Davis in defence as well. Ryan in goal, who wasn't template. I went with Adams. I went with Souček. I went with Ayling, Reece James, and of course Pulisic, you ended up on the bench. So we took more risks in terms of going against the template than the top 20 managers. And it's just interesting looking at this in light of decisions we're making now. Now, when I consider whether to go Bruno or not, you got to look at the fact that 18 of 20 had both Salah and Aubameyang. And they were the two kind of obvious heavy hitters to go with, just like Bruno and Salah are the obvious heavy hitters to go with now. Which kind of tells me that, me going Bruno, particularly in the light of what's happened in the last week with Robertson's injury and so on, would be folly, I expect. Any comments on this, on the ownership? I mean, it's not surprising, I guess.
No, a few people in the chat mentioning as well that, don't forget, United and City didn't have a game
That's
one,
right.
so
that's true.
It was a little bit skewed. But I mean, there's still a template that exists, so it's still perfectly valid to look at. I mean, it just kind of strikes me as kind of what we've been saying. I think the kind of the optimal, as we like to say on this show, as you know, strategy is for a kind of a template team sprinkled with a few differentials. And I think if you hit Calvert-Lewin and I mean, I know Son was highly owned, but Son wasn't a Twitter template pick. I don't remember him seeing him in loads of teams at the beginning of last season. No. So Son and Calvert-Lewin were perfect for this because they just went absolutely crazy, and then the rest are template, and that is what I'm trying to kind of do this season. And I'm not going for the template because it's the template. I'm just not deliberately going against the template because it's the template. Do you know what I mean? That makes sense.
Yeah. Which is tempting to do.
Really interesting.
But you look at the ownership last season. Alexander-Arnold at this point had 56.6% ownership, which is similar to Luke Shaw. What's Luke Shaw's at the moment? We're going to talk about him later. But
about 50%, 48,
so
I think.
Alexander-Arnold had more than Shaw last season. And interestingly, I didn't remember this, Aubameyang had far more ownership than Salah. 49.5% compared to 33%.
54% Shaw, bloody hell.
Right, so less than Trent last season at this same stage. I mean, Salah only owned by a third of the player base. I guess that was because some people went with City and United assets on the bench, of course. So,
but the hype around Aubameyang being reclassified to mid, he just signed that new contract. He was all set for him to be like this out of position wonder striker who was going to like absolutely smash the records and everything. And he scored game week 1, and I think he scored game week 2 as well, because I think everyone switched their captaincy to him game week 2, and then he did nothing.
and it's funny that Son, who's in that position this season, could end up being up front if Kane does depart, and yet we're all like, I'm not really sure, and yet he's cheaper than Aubameyang was last season, and when he's not someone who's got high ownership at the moment by any means, and he certainly is going against the template. So that hasn't excited us as much this time around, I guess, because, as we know, Kane isn't necessarily out of the equation at Spurs yet. So we have to see. So let's see when we look at our own teams. I think
very interesting.
When I looked at this,
I would not have thought Sir Maximan would be there.
No, I mean there was a lot of talk about Sir Maximan being the Twitter template player, right? But obviously,
I knew he was a bad pick. I never even
23.9%.
I know, crazy.
Surprising that it did infiltrate beyond Twitter. It wasn't just Twitter. It was. There's no doubt he was a good player, but he wasn't. He's not a finished article in terms of an FPL asset, is he?
No.
Okay, so take that on while we look at our own teams. Pre-season, right now. How much stock do you put in pre-season yourself? Do you select players based on what we're seeing here? And this is just a table showing the goal involvements in pre-season. I think it's the top 25, 30 players for goal involvements and the minutes they played. So what do you take from pre-season?
I don't focus too much on results or anything like that. Like, I think, United beating Everton 4-0 or, Brentford beating, Crawley 8-0 or whatever. I think all that I mostly look at it as fitness training exercises for teams, and there's strategies around this player's going to play this amount of minutes, this player's going to and I think it's all very meticulously done. But there are certain players that catch my eye, and there's someone on this list, for example, Ziyech, I think is a great example of someone who has performed incredibly well in pre-season. You keep seeing his name mentioned. He's scored a goal here, he's got an assist here, he's playing well here. He's playing in a team where there's obviously lots of rotation. There's lots of players coming back from different tournaments, and he's got a perfect game week 1 fixture, and then a tough run. So if I'm looking for a game week 1 punt, I think Ziyech, based on pre-season, would be a really good one. Ben Rama's the other example as well. Lingard's gone, and I think for Ben Rama to have a stake in the team, he had to perform well in the matches leading up to the beginning of the season, and he's done that. And I think he's actually made himself an option now in FPL, whereas if he hadn't had a good pre-season or if he barely played, he wouldn't have been a factor. So there's definitely some kind of learnings that we can take from it. Equally, I think, and we were talking before the show, someone like Calvert-Lewin, for example, we don't think he's played a single minute of pre-season. No. So you've got to think his likelihood of him starting in that Southampton game or getting reduced minutes or coming off the bench for 30, surely he's a no-go because of that. So I take it with a pinch of salt, but I definitely think there are some benefits to looking at it in a bit of detail.
Yeah, I mean, I said on Twitter this week that it's not. I firmly believe that not all players come out of pre-season equal, as in some players come out of pre-season sharper and with more confidence than others. And you touched on Ben Rama, and he's made it into my team this week because on the basis of what I've seen, like I've seen the goals that he scored, and I've seen him take shots that haven't gone in and hit the post, and I've just seen his just natural demeanour on the pitch. And I saw that video of Antonio bigging him up as well, which was kind of nice.
That
and
was
it's
good.
just convinced
that made me want both of them.
Yeah.
I've companionship.
I've gone for both of them. I mean, I just think that two things here. Ben Rama's played 300 minutes, right? So he's already ahead of a lot of players in terms of minutes played. he's showing confidence and form. I think he starts, but he's going to start. Right? Bowen's been on the bench last couple of friendlies, and Yarmolenko started the last one. So if anyone's going to drop out for Bowen, it'll be Yarmolenko, I would have thought. So Benrahma, for me, is in that West Ham starting lineup at the beginning of the season. They've got decent fixtures. And I know him. When he came from Brentford, he got 17 goals, league goals, when he joined from Brentford. In like 42 games, 46 games. He had a really good strike rate. His bag is not just creativity, it's mainly goals, right? He's a goal-scoring wide player. So that's what he gives us. He's not someone who we think, he's going to tick along with assists. He could be explosive. He could get 10 to 15 goals if he gets ever present in that West Ham team and he delivers on the kind of form he showed for Brentford.
I've got some things that, I'm just thinking, I'm looking at this list and I'm thinking, okay, there are some players who I've already got sort of a preconceived notion about. Like, I know Ziyech is a good player, right? I know when he signed, I was really excited about him. I had him in my own team for a bit. He's the kind of player that I think could break into the team. Same with like Mahrez. I think Benrahma is in that option. But then I look at some of the other players like Moura, and I think even if Moura banged in 8 goals pre-season, I'm never going near Lucas Moura. It's just not going to happen. And there's some names on that. I do worry, and listening to you talk about Benrahma, a lot of coulds were being mentioned.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if the hype of pre-season might affect. He hasn't done it, right? He played at West Ham last season. He didn't really show anything.
You say that, but his data was actually pretty good, right? If you look at minutes per XGI last season, him and Bowen were a lot higher than you would imagine. They were in the top 30. They were up there. And the thing with Benrahma, he's never had a run of starts. It's a bit like Lingard, isn't it? It's like you put him in that West Ham team and give him confidence and put faith in him, and he showed it. So it is a risk, but it's a 6 million risk, right? Whereas last season I took a 9 million risk on Pulisic.
Exactly. This is just sprinkling, right? This is just sprinkling of players, because I've got it a bit with Barnes. I think. I'm seeing Barnes in more and more teams, but. And he kind of has had the pedigree, but obviously there's a bit of a risk after the injury and whatever. We don't really know what system Roger's going to play and all of that. So he's a risk, but he's a 7 mil risk, and he's someone that I can move down to a 6.5 sort of fairly easily. Benrahma's 6 though. How are you going to move him out if you get 2 or 3 weeks into it and maybe he's on the bench for one and then not playing the next? Where do you go?
He'll play both first 2 games. I've no doubt he'll play the first 2 games. Why wouldn't he start and play the first 2 games?
But after that then? What if he does nothing in those 2 games?
After that, Mahrez is probably going for me, and that's where the money's getting freed up. Because I think that Mahrez will be nailed on starter for a while, but as soon as the likes of De Bruyne, Foden and Grealish settles in, and
so you're potentially booking yourself in 2 transfers for risky players.
But you're saying Benrahma's going to fail. Well, that's not a certainty, is it?
I'm not saying he's going to fail. I'm saying
booking it in. I'm not going. I'm definitely getting rid of Benrahma game week 3 or 4 because he's going to be shit by then, am I? I'm not saying.
Mark.
I think Benrahma.
It's a family-friendly show.
I think Benrahma can cut it. I think hopefully he's in and staying in for my team, because I think he could be an early bandwagon. Right? I think this is it. I don't think we can try and anticipate 3 or 4 bandwagons. It's too risky. Like Smith Rowe's another one that, we look at him and think a 5-5. If he does anything in the first 3 or 4 games, he's going to take off. I think Benrahma's the same. If he does anything in the opening couple of games and the form he's showing he could, then he's going to take off. So I don't look at him and think he's the first player I've got to get rid of. I think Mahrez in my team.
I'm not saying he's necessarily a bad pick. I do quite like him as an option. I think with my strategy for this preseason, we're going to be talking about our lessons a bit later on. I'm trying to avoid players who, at the end of the season, I look back on and go, why the hell did I start with Toney, Benrahma, And if I can, that's the thing with this kind of choosing the proven players or the guys that have at least done something.
Yeah,
you can look back at the end of the season and go, well, I can see why I started with Rafinha. His underlying stats are really good, and he was 6'5". Benrahma just worries me that I could start with him and be like, he was difficult to move out. He kept getting sub off at 60 minutes. Maybe I'm just being pessimistic, but
I think you are.
I'm just trying to avoid those kind of those risks. There's a real risk, right?
I think it'll be 4 to 5 game weeks before we see trouble with Benrahma. I think he's going to start at Newcastle, unless he absolutely flops. I think he's going to start the second game, or even if he flops, I think they'll give him at least 2 games. And then by then, I look at my planner and think, okay, I think Mahrez is going to be under risk by then, because then I'm going to go, the anxiety of starting Mahrez every week and that 9 million, and there's Rafinha available and there's Barnes available who have got better fixtures at that point. I think I plan to downgrade Mahrez, and that'll give me the money if I need a Benrahma escape route. That's loosely my plan. It's not booked in. I love it when people say, "Oh, you booked it in, have you?" They want to hear you say, "Yes, I've absolutely booked that in, and if it doesn't work out, I've collapsed and my season is over." That's what you want me to say.
Didn't say that. No, okay. I didn't say that. I was.
But it's funny whenever you say, "Oh, I'm thinking of doing this," they go, "Oh, don't book a transfer in." It's like, "Oh, for God's sake, I'm not booking it in. I'm just."
No, I know what you mean. I mean, it's whatever happens when you pick a player who's not in this Twitter template. It can get kind of. Get slated.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to temper expectation a little bit on Benrahma, who is someone who I was quite excited when West Ham signed them, and I just thought last season the stats might have been good, but it was a big disappointment. He was.
But did he ever start 3 or 4 games in a row? I don't think he did.
No, but I mean he wasn't starting even when Lingard wasn't there. But why wasn't he starting? Because he wasn't trusted. Is he suddenly now completely trusted by Moyes just because he's got a couple of goals in pre-season games?
He's had the second most minutes for West Ham. Only Creswell's had more minutes. So it's not just that. It's the fact that he's been ever present in pre-season effectively. I would be absolutely shocked if he didn't start at Newcastle.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
yeah. I don't think his start. I don't think his start is in question. It's just his ability to return points. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. And I think we know that there's going to be some bargains emerge in the first few weeks, and they're the ones that really fly. I mean, it's not if Vardy gets a goal, he's not going to rocket in ownership because people are going to stick with their strikers and Vardy's 10 million. But if a 5 or 6 million player gets a goal,
have you still got your mate as well? Your old mate Mbuemo?
Well, he's come in and out. You'll see in a bit. You'll see later on.
I'm excited. Well, if you start with Mbuemo and Benrahma.
Yeah, I am tempted.
And Mahrez.
Because he's the other one. Mbuemo is the other one I think could be an early bandwagon. But,
you've got to start with Mbuemo. Every time I see his name, I think of you now.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Yeah, of other names on this, I mean, Son, 7 goal involvements in 296 minutes has been electric. And Son was in my team last week. But I think when Nuno came out and said, we hinted that Kane could be... I mean, Kane's not going to start game week 1. But you've got to think that... I don't know. I mean, what do you think's going to happen to Kane? Do you think he's just not going to play in the first 3 game weeks and get a move? I mean...
Do you know what? When City signed Grealish, I thought, that's it. That's Kane. That's Kane off the table.
Yeah.
And then Pep did that press conference. And he seemed... I think we might have even talked about it last time. I don't know if I'm just repeating myself. But he was so like... I've never seen him talking so openly and so positively. He was like, we submitted a bid. It was rejected. But if they want to come back and like renegotiate, then we're here and nothing will happen until then. And I was like, bloody hell. He's basically just admitted that they tried to sign Kane and he's still interested in him. I just wouldn't have thought Pep would have done that. He normally plays his cards so close to his chest. So I'm now leaning back to thinking they are just going to buy him and spend 140 million on him or whatever, and he will get the move. So... I think it's going to rumble on, and I think you're right. I think he's not going to play until he gets that move.
See, I
can't see him starting game week 1.
No, not in game week 1. But is he going to be, playing against Watford? Because the thing is, people have said, "Oh, well, Son's even better with Kane in the team." Well, he's not. If Kane's going, I want to leave. I want to go to Man City. I don't want to be playing for Spurs. We're not going to get the Kane we used to get, are we? I wouldn't have thought. I mean, I know he's a good professional and that. Not so much in pre-season he hasn't been, but. I worry that Kane's going to be on half-mast, basically, if he does start.
Yeah, I mean, we saw... I mean, it's a rubbish comparison. I'll probably get slated in the chat. But I remember when Ronaldo had his absolutely amazing season at United, and Ferguson basically begged him to stay for another year. And he was like, I will sell you to Real Madrid next season, but I want to get another year out of you. Like, Ronaldo still had a good season, but it wasn't the same level as the season before. And then he went to Madrid and just absolutely smashed it for the next, 7 or 8 years. But I'll always remember that season because he was still effective, still playing well and stuff. But it was like his heart just wasn't quite in it. And it did affect his performances, I think. And I think that's what would happen to Kane. So but worse, because he actually wants to leave and feels like he's been blocked.
And so I don't want to see Kane in the same team as Son, really, because I think it will move Son out to a wider position. And I don't think Kane will be the Kane we expect, So that put me off Son quite a lot when Nuno said what he said, because it was like, I guess I didn't expect Nuno to go, oh no, Kane's not going to turn up. He's going to be transferred in 3 weeks. But Never going to
And
say that.
so you come crawling back, haven't you?
Yeah.
You
At the
come
moment,
crawling back to Bruno.
I'm struggling to build a case now. It's all kind of collapsed around me. Lukaku arriving, damaging Havertz. Son, I'm not sold on. I don't know. I mean, I might. There's still time. I might change my mind. Watkins, 5 goals. Do we think we heard today from Smith that Watkins isn't going to play out wide? It's going to be a 4-4-2, presumably.
I know. Or like you mentioned to Luke and I in a 5. A back 5 with wing backs, which excited me more for target than
yeah.
Watkins,
But where's
actually.
Bailey going to play in that? That's the only issue.
Wing back?
Don't see it. But then they have bought. They bought
I've got no idea.
Tuanzabi's arrived from United, which gives them Konsa, House, Tuanzabi, and Mings. That's a lot of centre backs. Right? If they're only going to play 2 of them, maybe they are. But I looked at that sign and thought, is he thinking of doing 3 at the back? And then when he said 2 up front, that makes you think, well, he could go 3-5-2 then. But Bailey doesn't fit in that system if that's the case. For me,
I guess he wants to be flexible, right? He wants to just be able to move things around and adjust and tweak. I think it could change game on game. Might see Bailey missing out. We might see Buendia playing at 10 some games. Might see him playing deeper in midfield. It's a bit of a mess, really. But it is a pretty big thing, like for him to say, I do not see Watkins playing on the wing like regularly, because we saw him go over to the wing last season. When like Keenan Davis came on, like Watkins naturally goes out onto the left hand side. So I think he's naturally going to do that a little bit. But I mean, if they play a 4-4-2 and it's Watkins and Ings up front, a 4-4-2 just seems so like prehistoric now, doesn't it? Like so few teams. It's like
only
Burnley
play it. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I remember when I
they
put
made
it
all
on,
these signings and go back to that.
I think Adam Hotcroft said, "Oh, he's never going to go 2 up. He's never going to go 4-4-2." There was a lot of people, Villa fans, writing that off. So it is a bit surprising, unless of course Watkins does start in a 2 and just drifts out wide, and so I think that's probably more likely that it will set up as a
4-3-3 is more likely with Watkins drifting over to the left.
So basically Smith is probably saying, well, he's not going to be a winger, he's going to be a wide forward or something ridiculous like that. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what Dean's thinking?
He will definitely naturally drift over to the left, whatever happens. Because Ings will be playing centrally and he can't play where Ings plays. So he will have to go over to the left a little bit because that's where he feels most comfortable.
Ings could be withdrawn a bit, I guess. He could play the 10. He's creative enough. But I just don't. And the thing is as well, when there's 0.5 difference, when it comes to instinct and finishing, Ings is worth that 0.5 easily, isn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, his ownership's gone up from I think it's like 7 or 8% up to like 25% because of that move. And I think that just shows again, like the levels of interest that people have got, and this isn't just a casuals game anymore. Because for that ownership to have increased that much, like 6 or 7 seasons ago, we wouldn't have seen like someone like that. I don't know, attracts so much extra interest, I don't think. And I think people have realised, I don't want to go for Watkins because he might go to the left. And I've heard, some of my friends have said it who barely even, they play fantasy football sort of very casually, but they know that they need to take Watkins out because he's going to be less a good option with Ings. It's really interesting. I just think he's a great pick. I think the first 3 are so good, and Ings is great, and he's going to get some goals in those 3, I'm sure.
Okay, a name is on this list: 3 goals in pre-season, 269 minutes, and an assist, 4 goal involvements pre-season. Ivan Toney, he is part of the Brentford lineup, of course, and you mentioned Mbeumo. We're going to look at now some data that appeared on Twitter this week, courtesy at FBL Nick. So follow at FBL Nick because he's already put out this good thread, and I'm sure there's more to come.
Best thread I've seen pre-season. This.
Do you want to talk about it? That's because you had a read through this and rinsed it, didn't you?
I can do. I just don't have it up.
Well, basically, he looked at the... I've got the tables here in front of me. So this is the impressive array of data that he put together. He effectively went back 5 seasons and looked at the promoted teams. And he looked at their key data in terms of goals, shots per 90, shots in the box per 90, and possession. And he compared their championship data to what happened to those stats when they went up into the Premier League, and what you see is the fruit of that labour, and it's a lot of red. Red is decline, basically. Red is dip. Red is bad.
Which we expect, but it's the extent of it that really got me. Yeah. I mean no, go on. Sorry, you go.
No, I mean go through the data there. I mean the averages, the average decline there of each team in terms of goals is 41%.
Yeah, that really
fewer goals.
That's the stat that really got me, because obviously I'm expecting fewer goals from promoted teams. That's just obvious. But 41.5% is a hell of a turnaround. And Norwich, I think, were massively, 66%. I mean, I think they might have scored the most goals in the season when they went up, and then a 66% decline is absolutely massive. So we can expect Brentford on average to score 40% less goals than they scored in the Championship.
Well, that's what Nick is saying. And then basically what he did, he not only compared the teams, he started looking at the specific goal scorers. So he looked at Toney, Pukki, Bamford, McGoldrick, Dwight Gale and Glenn Murray over the seasons, and looked at their goals per 90, shots per 90, shots in the box per 90, and 6-yard chances per 90. And again, the table, as you can see, there's a lot of red there. And the average decline on goals per 90 for those leading scorers from those teams was 40%, 39.1%. Again. So we can expect 39 to 40% fewer goals from League One goal scorers, effectively.
Well, the saving grace, the reason that average isn't higher is because of good old Glenn Murray. He only had an 18% drop off. But the likes of Dwight Gale, 71%, McGoldrick, your mate, Mark Goldrick, 76% drop off. So you sign this elite striker, and you get that return. I mean, Bamford did well, like incredibly well. Jimenez has done well in the past. Who am I thinking of? Who's the other? There's another promoted striker that did well. Watkins did amazingly well as well. But then you've got the likes of Mopay, you've got the likes of Gale, McGoldrick, Pukki. So it's just where is Toney gonna sit? I mean, the thing is, Toney's goals are so high that even if you half that, he's still at like 15 or 16. I think it's like 17 goals. I think about 34 goals in there, something ridiculous like that. So.
Yeah,
but he's not going to get 17 goals. So I expect to see him on this list being massive. I mean, 10 goals would be a pretty good return for him, I'd say.
I'm more optimistic about Toney. I think the problem is that he missed the last pre-season friendly with a neck injury as well. And when we look at our lessons learned, you'll see why that's a worry. So you presume that that's nothing. And Frank said, he's definitely, you can't keep him out of the team for the Arsenal game. Fair enough, but there's got to be a problem there. And then you throw in this data as well, and it kind of, what this data does is reminds us that we should probably wait and see how Brentford's set up, how many opportunities Toney gets in the Premier League in the first few games compared to what he was used to in League One. We think it's going to decline. He's going to get fewer chances. I mean, that's what this data shows. And it's a 6-yard ball. I mean, the goals that he feeds off, he never scores outside the box. He feeds on chances within 12 yards, doesn't he?
This is what got me about Nick's research, because Nick's saying that there's nearly a 40% decrease in shots within the 6-yard box. That's the stat that worries me most with Toney. And I've been saying this all week, and I'm sorry if you've been listening to my videos on Scout and I'm repeating myself, but the thing is people forget that it's not just Toney, right? Toney is a great striker, I've got no doubt, but he needs service. He needs to get the ball to him. And I just think teams are going to work out very quickly, let's not let Toney get the ball in the 6-yard box because he'll probably score. And I don't think Brentford have strengthened particularly well. They're obviously well suited to Toney. They play to his strengths, but the fixtures are hard at the start of the season for them. I mean, Arsenal isn't an easy game. Palace, okay, maybe we can do that. But then they've got like the likes of Villa. I don't think they've got an easy introduction to the Premier League, and I do worry that if he's not getting the chances in the box to score those goals that he feeds off, that he's not going to do that well. Caveat to that, though, is that he is 6.5, and it's a good price for him, and he's going to get 90 minutes, and he is the focal point for the team. But I'm comparing him to the likes of Rafinha, and I'm thinking, not too sure. I don't know. I was completely sold on Toney, but this research has put me off him a bit.
Yeah,
well, I say a bit, quite a lot.
I'm optimistic still, but I don't know if I'm going to start now because I've set my team up largely as a 3-5-2. So I might go 4-4-2 at times, but I'm only going to have two main strikers and a cheap one. So it has made me think I can't really take a risk on Toney. I need to take a look before I do that. So you'll see that he's been omitted from my team. Now, Mbeumo is something different because he's 5.5 and he could fill one of the midfield slots for me. Because I do think, I think Brentford will do okay. I think their style of football, they'll adjust quicker and they'll get some joy out of their pressing. And Toney and Mbeumo do all right. They'll justify their prices. But I'm not prepared on taking a risk on one of my striker slots now, given that I've only got 2. So that's where I'm at with it. So thanks, Nick.
Yeah, thanks, Nick, and then
we're at Fest,
we're at Fest, and Toney gets a brace, and we're absolutely cursing him. It's great research though, and it's obviously it's hard to kind of say exactly what's going to happen to Brentford. We've seen the likes of Leeds and Wolves have come up and done really well and been really attacking, and obviously there's much less of a drop off for their strikers and their players. And Brentford have got I'd say a fairly similar style to those kind of teams where. They want to attack, right? I mean, Wolves, when they came up, were a brilliant attacking team. Everyone was really excited to watch them every week. And then it's only recently they've become Nuno was like, oh, no, actually, I just want to defend all the time and be really boring and stuff. And that almost happened to Leeds as well. Like, they were really attacking. In the end of last season, they became a bit boring. So we'll see what happens to them. But I think Brentford are definitely going to come up and give it a go. I just worry about the service to Toney. But yeah, I mean, I think he got like 10 assists as well, something like that.
He did, yeah.
But never forget Mope. Mope had an absolutely banging season for Brentford and then signed for Brighton. And he is maybe the worst player I've ever seen.
Well, Watkins did well, though. Watkins in there. And of course, we talked about Ben Rama. Yep. He was part of that Brentford front three. And as we've already said, he's going to go and get 15 goals this season, as we've confirmed tonight. So,
Yeah.
Let's talk about
the strikers, Brentford, don't they?
They do. Let's talk about a player who does have some pedigree in the Premier League. That's Lukaku. We haven't got his price yet. It's not all confirmed by any means, of course. And Chelsea haven't officially announced it. But it seems a formality, right? So I had a bit of fun and I looked back at Lukaku's record in the Premier League. And I know that he's done brilliantly in the last 2 seasons in Serie A. 24 goals in 36 appearances last season, 23 in 36 the season before. So incredible run of form for Inter. But I just wanted to remind myself what we're getting with Lukaku. So I compared his Premier League record to Kane, Vardy, and also Ings because he's topical at the moment. And it's quite interesting when you look at this table. Surprising as well. In terms of shot accuracy, Lukaku beats them all. He's got a better accuracy in the Premier League than Vardy and Kane. But in terms of goal involvement per game, he's below even Vardy, 0.59 per game compared to 0.82 on Kane and 0.64 on Vardy. So Kane is just, because he brought assists into his game recently, 166 goals, 34 assists in 245 appearances. Brilliant, of course. Lukaku, 113 goals, 35 assists and 252. They've played very similar games, Vardy, Kane and Lukaku. But it looks in this data like what we're getting is a striker who's kind of placed somewhere in the middle of those two. But that was the Lukaku we knew. The Lukaku that has grown in the last 2 seasons at Inter could be something different. So where do you stand on him? Do you still have memories of him at United, or is your memories based on his Everton form where he was a captain for us? And is he a wait and see for you?
Well, I did a tweet about him because my concerns with him aren't his pedigree. I think he's a fantastic striker. His eye for goal is almost second to none. He's an absolutely brilliant finisher. On his day, completely unplayable. Has weaknesses or had weaknesses in his game at United. Never really saw the best of him, I don't think. But his scoring record was still fairly decent. I think he's got about 50%. Goal every 2 games or something like that, which is right up there with some of the best.
Oh yeah.
I mean, 100 million for anyone is obviously ludicrous amounts of money. My question marks are: would I put Lukaku in the same bracket as like the most elite players that have ever played in the Premier League, who would probably be worth that? Like Van Persie, Drogba, Henry, Rooney, all these guys would have gone for 100 million. You wouldn't bat an eyelid, but Lukaku, I still struggle, but it's like the third, like nearly £100 million move he's had in a while. So, but I think the key thing is, I can't ever remember a signing which has like plugged a hole as well as Lukaku is going to plug the Chelsea hole, because he's just exactly what they need, right? He is a big, strong forward who's going to bring all of their crazy amounts of attacking players into the game. Werner's going to feed off him. Pulisic is going to feed off him. Ziyech has got someone to cross to. Chilwell and James are going to just absolutely love playing with him. Can you imagine putting balls into the box and he's just there? Like he's gonna be a factor in our seasons. I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever, but not for a while. The fixtures are too bad.
Yeah,
and
so
he loves to score against the lower end teams. He will be. There is no question he'll be in my team when the fixtures turn for Chelsea.
You're that confident?
No question.
So we can game week 7. Because what's interesting, the table and below is Chelsea's attack under Tuchel, and the narrative was that defensively they improved, but that was at the cost of not being that enterprise.
That's what I would have thought. This is surprising.
They did only score 25 goals, which was ranked 10th in the league from game week 20. Right, so they were mid-table for goals scored, but the table here showing minutes per XG has them third behind Liverpool and City. So in terms of creating chances,
they didn't have a goal scorer.
Yeah,
they didn't have a goal scorer. How are you supposed to score when you haven't got anyone that can put the ball in the net? And that's what Lukaku is. That's why I think he's expensive as hell. He's absolutely unbelievable amount of money. But when money is no object, why wouldn't you get him?
Yeah, because I mean, you look at the Chelsea data, they were fine as an attacking force. They created enough, but they didn't have that finished article up front. And that's why they've gone and got him. That's why they've spent the money, and it might be too much, but it's going to be worth it.
They're not messing about, are they? They're not messing about, giving Abraham a chance. Or in a couple of seasons he could be an elite striker. They're not going out and buying a 20-year-old, a 21-year-old. They're buying the finished product. They're buying a player in the prime of his career who's going to give them 2 to 3 years of max level stuff, and then we'll start to decline.
Yeah, and
he's a fairly short-term signing. Yeah, but they are absolutely. It's between City and Chelsea for me, without a doubt. They are so strong, so strong. Unless
Sancho turns into the player that he could be, then it puts United in there. Maybe Sancho is, but I like you. I think Lukaku's got to be in our teams from game week 7 onwards, given the fixtures that they got. I mean, we'll bring up the ticker now.
100 million though.
Chelsea start that run in game week 7 with Southampton at home. And then the next 5 are just absolutely extraordinary. So, that first set of games, the first 6, Palace, Arsenal, Liverpool, Villa, Spurs, City, we avoid them for that run maybe. Maybe you could have a defender in there at most and hope that they keep clean sheets against tough opposition, which they're capable of doing. But I don't think you're going to have an attacker. But it's from game week 7. Starting with Southampton, they've got a run of... They've probably got the best 5 games in a row.
Unbelievable.
In the league this season. And that is when we've got
it's probably the best run of games I've ever seen, until United in 13, when they just go on a similar crazy run. But we were wondering which Chelsea attackers to own and how we will kind of juggle it and stuff. Lukaku is just he's a lock.
He's fixed that.
It's a lock emoji.
So we've got to prepare for that, either with the wild card or otherwise. Okay, let's look at some of the questions that we gathered. These are the 5 that you picked out. Do you want to... kick us off with FPL Berg?
Yeah, I mean the first question is a nice one. It relates to BlackBox. Are you breaking any of your usual self-imposed game week 1 rules this year? For example, I've started rotating cheap goalkeepers for as long as I can remember, but I'm going double Brighton to free up the 0.5. That's from FPL Berg. I'll start. I am doing the opposite of that. I am deliberately going to try and not break any stupid rules. I'm not going to make any stupid last minute transfers at Fest. I'm going to get everything locked in tomorrow night, and I'm not going to change it unless press conferences come, which that's a bit of a given. But no, I'm really going to try and not break it, and I'm going to try and start with proven players, which is why I'm thinking about going without Toney. And like I said, I'm just going to try and pick a team that I won't regret in a few weeks. And that's easy to say, isn't it? But sometimes you pick players, you think, 50-50, I'm not really sure. And I've got Grealish in my team at the moment. I guess Grealish could be that player, but I love him. So maybe I am breaking it with him. But no, I am genuinely really trying to get my game week 1 team right this year. What about you?
Yeah, I'm not consciously breaking anything, I don't think. I guess, the Ben Rama thing is a risk when you couple it with Mahrez. There's no doubt about that. But the trouble is with me is I need to have a little bit of excitement in that initial lineup. I need to have, we saw the top 20s template, and they had Calvert-Lewin in there, who only had 9% ownership. So, that's the type of player I'd want in my game week 1 lineup. Someone who's got less than 10% ownership, who, when they score, I feel like it's a big gain. Because let's face it, when Bruno gets his first return, or when Salah gets his first return, it'll be like a muted celebration. It'll be like, Yeah, okay. And it's a shame, isn't it? I mean, that's what effective ownership has done a little bit. It's taken that joy out of your big player getting a goal now, because you know that everyone around you, everyone who's engaged, has either got Bruno or Salah or at least one of them. And so the impact of those goals and assists aren't that great. But the impact of Benrahma, if he scores something at Newcastle, will be huge, right? So you're kind of giving yourself that player who can give you that little bit of extra joy. So I've got to be careful with that. That's the one thing I'm wary of, is not going too far with the Benrahma-like picks.
Yeah, I mean, I want 3 players, at least 3 players, but at least max 3 players. I don't know, one of the two. I'll say max 3 players that really excite me.
Yeah,
and if I have those 3, then I'm happy. I'm happy to take the risk with those, and I think Barnes is one.
Yeah,
I mean, Grealish is an interesting one because he's like 30% owned in the game, but is in like 5% of Twitter teams.
Oh yeah,
so
I think he counts for you.
I think he still counts, and then it's my I don't know. I think Ings kind of is there, possibly. I mean, I haven't got Shaw. I've gone for Soufal instead, so I think Soufal would be someone that there should be. So I've got a couple of like little ones, but I kind of want one more exciting one, and I think it might be, if I get news about Buendia, it might be Toney to Buendia. And
Get
to
news
target
about
those 3
Buendia
fixtures.
in what way? In terms of the injury, he's got a minor doubt.
Yeah, just if he's fit. If he's fit, I might do that. And then I have Buendia, Grealish, and Barnes, and they would be 3 players who, if they scored or something, I would really, really celebrate.
See, this is what's interesting, right? We talked about Benrahma earlier. Why is Buendia a better pick than Benrahma? Because arguably West Ham are a better attacking team than Villa. Benrahma's had 1 season in the Premier League already, and Benrahma's record for Brentford when he left was really strong, as strong as Buendia's for Norwich last season. So why, when Buendia is 0.5 more, is he a better pick than Benrahma?
Well, I didn't necessarily say he was. I didn't necessarily say that.
No, but he is more popular in the Twitter community than Benrahma.
Yeah.
And when people talk about Benrahma, they go, "Oh, why are you doing that? What a risk!" And yet Buendia is not spoken about in that term at all, is he?
To me, the first thing is, if Buendia is fit, he's locked. He's in that team 100%. He's the Grealish creative replacement, and they need him because they don't have much creativity. I don't really think without him. It was really interesting. Did you see the Villa owners' speech that he did after Grealish left? I just loved it when he said, when we knew Grealish was leaving, we went out and we identified, how can we replace his goal scoring? We're going to replace that with Ings. How can we replace his creativity? We're going to get Buendia. How we can replace his dribbling? We're going to get Bailey. I love that. Like, they just replaced one player with three players. And
the only issue with that is, when he was saying that was I thinking, yeah, but there's not 3 balls on the pitch. Only one of those players can have the ball at any one time, whereas with Grealish, you kind of had it all in one. So it's not really a like for like, is it? But anyway,
it's very true.
But
I think that's the thing with Buendia, and as well as that locked element in the team, it's just targeting those 3 fixtures, right? It's just targeting a block of fixtures to try and maximise it. And Villa have the best 3.
I just think it's quite amusing that people have just completely forgotten that Benrahma was a top player. He was Championship Player of the Season, the Championship, just like Buendia was. But everyone goes, "Oh, Buendia, look what he did in the Championship." 2 seasons ago, Benrahma was doing that in the Championship, but because he's had that 1 season, people have made up their mind and go, "Oh, he's not good enough." Whereas I think
that's exactly what's happened.
Yeah, I think that's exactly
what's happened. Yeah. But again, people might forget that Buendia came up and then was similar and
that's
didn't
true.
do it.
Yeah. But he is in a better team now with Villa. I think I don't have any doubts about Buendia being a success. I just don't know if it'll happen straight away, because I've said before, this team's got to gel a bit. So I think going 2 Villa attackers is a bit risky, because I think Luke had 2, or Andy had 2 in his team that he showed me the other day. So that's my only concern, that I don't know how quickly Villa will just snap into scoring goals and being free flowing. But yeah. Fair enough.
Next
Liam,
question.
Kirby?
If FPL Kirby asked a similar question, so I don't think but how many players in your team have been made on the basis of the lessons learned from our retrospective episode, and do any of your choices contradict those lessons learned? I think Grealish does contradict it, because Grealish to me is a risk, right? We don't really know where he's going to play. He hasn't had a lot of time to join the team. We don't know what his position or his role is. It is a bit of a kind of, he's the kind of pick to me which is a bit like, I just love him, so I just want to put him on my side, and I'm not sure how good an FPL option he's going to be under City. And he's 8 million as well, so he's not like, I've been saying, you can take a risk on your 6 and your 7s, but then I've got an 8 million risk in there. So he's probably the one that contradicts it. I guess Barnes is as well because of the injury he had too. So yeah, I guess I've gone against it, but I just see the potential in them just so much. I just think Grealish, I think Grealish is going to line up on the left against Spurs. They've got so few options attacking wise, and I know what he can do on the left, and he's playing for a better team. City tend to get off to a fairly slow start, but then I've got him for Norwich sort of in place. And Barnes, I just love Barnes in general. I love the idea of, but it's that Wolves game. The Wolves game for Barnes. I've got feelings about. Sometimes I just get these feelings. What
do you mean? Semedo's just going to lock him down? I don't know what you're thinking.
I think Semedo is going to be pushed so high up the pitch by this new manager. Like he's so gung ho, this guy, that Barnes is just going to eat up these chances. He's going to play it high up the pitch, and they're just going to get the ball to him as much as they can. He's going to be so direct and get at them, and I just don't think they're going to be able to deal with him. I'm really excited about Barnes.
They might put Hoover on him. Quite literally.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. No, but Hoover has played well last couple of games, and Semedo's got a knock, I think.
He sucks, doesn't he?
Very good. Very good indeed. Very good. Oh, dear. I think about Grealish on the left is we know they've got Foden and Sterling for out there, right? So he's going to struggle to hold that left side roll down because I think one of those two will get it.
It's not where he's been brought to play.
No, he's definitely been brought to play central, and that's the only concern I've got. It's like I have no idea what role he's got to play in that City team and what impact. Is he going to be the assist in the assister? I don't know. This is the thing. He could be he could become the Modric of Man City, couldn't he? Easily. But he's such a good player. I mean, I'm tempted to own him just because I love him. But I think for me, he's a wait and see.
I agree. I think he likes to be involved around the goal area too much to ever be a Modric. Modric was quite happy. And the problem is I think Maddison's got that in him as well. I love Maddison. You know I do. Everyone knows my love for Maddison. But I have that feeling with Maddison where he's just happy to play a bit deeper and he's happy to orchestrate things. He kind of trots towards the penalty area and stuff. But Grealish, every time he gets the ball, he just drives. He's just one of those players. He wants to be in the thick of all the action, winning fouls around the penalty area, in the area, winning penalties. And I don't think Pep's going to say, I don't want you to do that. I want you to operate from deep. He needs that. He wants him to be that guy who's going to make things happen around the box. I think he could be, I mean, he's stupid. He's a £100 million player. Obviously, we're expecting big things from him, but I really am expecting him to have a big season at City.
But he could be anything. That's the problem. He is capable of playing anywhere on the pitch and fulfilling any role they want him to fulfil, and that's the problem. There's no certainty at all what we're going to get. And you're right. I think he probably will play left against Spurs, but then against Norwich, he'll be in a different position. I think if Foden.
Ziyech has just scored again.
I know. I just saw. Yeah, Havertz assist, I believe. On fire.
He's an interesting one.
Yeah, he's starting to pique your interest.
Well, actually, that leads us nicely on to the next question. I have a 7.5 spot in my team. Jota / Greenwood and Gundogan have shown momentum minutes in pre-season. You can add Ziyech to that list as well, who's 7.5. Which player do you think will excel between 7 and 7.5 over the opening 3 game weeks? Well, Barnes is the obvious pick for me. I really like him. You know, in the draft we did a few weeks ago, I had Maddison, but I've just massively been converted around to Barnes. I thought he was absolutely fantastic in that Community Shield. Like he's the main. I think he's the main reason Leicester won it. Like they just couldn't deal with him. Every time he got the ball, he drove at them. He was like forcing like players back. They were struggling. Him and Amity were the best players on the pitch. So I really like him at 7. And then I think it's asking me between Jota and Greenwood. I'll come to you on it. I've got some opinions. I was talking to Joe about it earlier. What do you reckon about Jota and Greenwood?
Jota.
Have you got either of them in your team?
Not yet. No. But they Jota's been in my team more than Greenwood. The thing with Greenwood is I think that he'll start okay. He'll get some starts in the first few game weeks. But I think long term I'm not sold on him holding down a starting role. Jota won't either, but Jota will probably play 2 or 3 or 2 or 4 and he'll come on in the other games and get 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And I don't know, we've got to see when Europe starts how the rotation works with him, Firmino and Mane. I don't count Salah in that. I think Salah's pretty untouchable, but those other 3 will rotate, I think. I mean, is there a chance he plays all 4 in some games? I guess it could happen. Again, we don't know. I personally would go with Jota over Greenwood initially. I think he starts at Norwich, and if he does well, it's going to be hard to drop him. I think, we could see Mane drop game week 2 rather than rather than Jota if Jota does well. That's the problem. That's the problem with going Mane. If Jota does well, Mane's suddenly like, 1 in 3 or 1 in 4, he's going to get on the bench maybe.
I mean, Jota is a 10 million player dressed up at 7.5 potentially. You know, like he's the kind of player who could just make an absolute mockery of his price tag if he gets regular starts playing for Liverpool. You know, 7.5 is just so cheap. And look at his stats. I mean, I know at the end of last season he massively underperformed FPL wise, but his stats were like they were just constantly at the top of our list, wasn't he? Like his shots and goal involvement and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I would definitely go for him over Greenwood. I don't know what Greenwood's role is going to be. I mean, he's been playing a lot on the right wing, but obviously Sancho is number one for that. He's going to play up front, but he's going to share minutes with Cavani. Martial's back now as well, and we don't know who's going to start there. So I think Greenwood is good for the first few games, and maybe even for the first 3. But I'd still pick Jota. A lot of people though are going Tsimikas instead of Jota.
Yeah,
you know, and I think if you like the look of Jota and you're sold on Jota, I don't think you can get Tsimikas because you're going to kick yourself when you can't get Jota in. Because that's the big problem with him, right? Is you lock yourself out of free Liverpool if you've got Tsimikas.
You said it 3 times there. Is it Tsimikas or is it Tsimikas? I thought it was Tsimikas.
It's Tsimikas.
Right.
It's Tsimikas.
Right.
The one that I didn't say those 3 times.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Tsimikas. Yes,
No, because I was already going right. Tsimikas, and then you just said something completely different, completely threw me. I was like, am I wrong?
Sorry, it is definitely Tsimikas.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. But some people have gone, I'm even more convinced to go Jota now because he'll be more of a differential, which is a good point, right? And I think we've got a gift here in that Barnes is a player that I think we're going to want after 3 or 4 game weeks when we've seen him sharpen up. And like he does look good in terms of energy, but his touch is still a bit off. I think, it's going to take time for him to get back into that groove of getting his first touch and being more the player that he was at periods last season. I think it's 3 or 4 weeks and he'll be fully up to speed. And in that time, we can get one of Jota and Greenwood, and that's great. Yeah. Right. So I think that would be my plan. Is I would be doing that. I mean, I'm doing that with Mahrez instead. I think Barnes is a player that I'm going to target in about 2 or 3 game weeks time because I really like him. Like you, I think he's the driving force. He's very direct. He'll get you shots. He's not the best finisher in the world, but he gets so many chances that overall he's going to be worth that money. And I think he's 7 million. I think he's about 8.5 to be honest. He shouldn't be 7 million.
Yeah.
So I think he's the one.
I agree.
Next.
Wally AFC. Yeah, I really like this one. Have you considered bench boosting for game week 1? We mentioned it last season. He's surely considering it. The perks are you get it out of the way. With only one chance to wildcard another chip, and you can save your actual wildcard. You haven't got to think about having an extra goalkeeper or having decent options and stuff. And then he mentioned some players you could go for like Sanchez, Backman, White, Amity, who's almost certainly going to start. 4 million. Tsimikas as well. Tsimikas, got to get it right. Rafinha, Toney, Antonio. We've got quite a lot of these budget guys right now. Whereas in 10 weeks' time, when Lukaku comes in and De Bruyne comes in, and we've got loads more premiums, it might be harder to build a decent bench boost side. I'm not just saying this. If there was a 4 million goalkeeper, I think I'd do it.
Would you? The only issue I've got is we can't be absolutely certain of starts, right? Because we haven't seen any team sheets yet. Whereas in the season, we've built up some knowledge of who are the regular starters. And I always find in game week 1, there's always someone hasn't turned up and you think, well, what? Like a regular starter just hasn't turned up in the team sheet. And that's my worry about playing it now, because I don't think we're informed enough about the starting 11s. I mean, Calvert-Lewin, before today, I thought, well, Calvert-Lewin's definitely going to start for Everton. Then when I looked, he had 0 minutes. I'm thinking, maybe he's not going to. So someone like that won't turn up in game week 1. There'll be uproar on Twitter going, how come Soufal hasn't turned up, or Calvert-Lewin? And it'll be like, okay, the manager considered he wasn't sharp enough. And we won't have that in the season. We'll have much more data and knowledge of who are the starters. And because of that, because you need your first 11 to play, I think I wouldn't play it, because with the bench boost, you can look at your subs, but you've got to be absolutely certain the 11 start before you even consider what your subs can do for you. Otherwise, you're losing one player, aren't you? So, that's the reason why I wouldn't play it now.
I just hate the bench boost. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
I hate the fact that you have to build a wildcard team with it in mind. And I kind of just feel like even if I used the bench boost game week 1 and I got like 12 or 14 points, like the most I'm hoping for was probably about 20, 25, and I'm going to have to build a team that, how many points do I lose having to build a team just for that bench boost in the first place? So I'm sure one year I'm going to do it. And you know what's really annoying is a few people mentioned in the chat about Woodman. He's the third choice Newcastle goalkeeper who's almost certainly going to play. Yeah. He's 4-5. He's 4-5. Well, if he was 4...
He was 5 million last year. Darlow was 5 million. Do you remember? There was a...
Oh, I know. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. But yeah, if he was 4, I would really, really strongly be considering it. Because I think you could go with Simicast and Amity.
Yeah.
And I think they're both almost certainly going to start. Build a decent defence. And then I think, you've got the likes of Toney at 6-5. The thing is, at the moment, is I don't think we're ever going to see the game with this many mid-priced players throughout the rest of the season. Because like I said earlier, as soon as De Bruyne and Lukaku's in, and Sancho might be a factor, Son might be a factor, Kane's going to be at City, like we're gonna have our benches are going to be like Brownhill, Veltman and whoever. Whereas this might be the chance to actually have a fairly decent squad. So I'm tempted.
I get it. There is a case there. Thing is, I've been wringing my hands as it is without having to think about the bench boost as well. I think you're right. I think if we look back at our seasons since the bench boost come in, I wonder how many seasons we've been better off just going, I'm not going to use the bench boost. I'm not going to think about it.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to use Ragabolly's tool.
Oh, exactly.
And I'm going to build a bench boost to the team that I would use the bench boost with, and I'm going to see how many points it gets. Because if that team gets over 15 points off the bench, I would have wished I'd played it.
Yeah, more on that tool at the end. Next question.
Final question. Yeah, FPL_casual. Is there too much love for Luke Shaw? He's in every draft I see, somewhat injury prone, versus Harry with top shots in the box and same points as Wan-Bissaka with 20 more points. He's a little bit confusing this thing. Basically, is Shaw. Is the 54% ownership of Shaw justified? Has he been in every draft that you've made?
Yeah, I've never touched him. He's as nailed as a trend. I don't understand why you've gone without him. Talk to me. Talk to me. Why have you lost faith in him?
I haven't had him.
You've never
had
faith in him in the first place, right?
I haven't lost faith, and I never really had it. I'm not saying for a second he's a bad pick, right? He's an attacking fullback playing for United with good fixtures. I've always kind of thought if I wanted someone around that price, I'd rather have Chilwell or Cancelo, and I'm happy with Soufal at 5, who I think's got good fixtures as well and got like 9 assists. And I think it is interesting that Shaw had like his best ever season last year and only managed 5 assists and got less points than Wan-Bissaka. And I think everyone's really expecting him to build on it, but I'm just surprised that he's in this like essential camp of players that is just in every single side. And like, I don't know, I mean, my back 3 is like Trent, Soufal, and then a kind of a bit of a rotation between White, Eiling and Simicast. And I don't think that's awful. It's not like not having Shaw is massively detrimental to my side. They're still all good defenders. Yeah, and I just kind of feel like he's so highly owned that it makes me kind of want to.
Don't consider ownership doesn't come into it. Right, for me, these are the reasons. Varane makes United tighter. They've got a
who's not there yet.
No, not yet. But I mean, I don't want to be transferring out defenders every week, do I? So I want some settled pieces like Trent and Luke. Right, Luke Shaw and Trent Alexander-Arnold. I look at and think I'm never going to need to change them. It's not like Luke Shaw's injury prone.
But you're changing your strategy from what you said last week, which was looking at. Well, you said if you're looking to wildcard in game week 5 or 6, you don't have to have a player in for the whole season, right?
No, that is true. But I although I am thinking 7 is where I'm going to wildcard, I'm still at the back of my mind thinking, well, what if I'm flying at that point? Would I wildcard then? So you just don't know where we're going to be. Yeah. Luke Shaw, they've got a new set piece coach, right? And we saw straight away Maguire scoring from a Luke Shaw corner pre-season. And all right, it might be speculation to go, that's the new coach they brought in to train set pieces. A lot of people did, but there could be something in that. Luke Shaw's on a lot of set pieces, not just corners, right? He's on a lot of set pieces. So I am expecting an upturn in them returning from set pieces. Maguire should do well as well, by the way. But yeah, and I just think it's recency bias, of course. Like the end of the season, Shaw was fantastic. Euros as well, fantastic. So there is a bit of bias, no doubt. But I do think 5.5, it's a good price. I mean, I'd probably pay 6 for him.
He should be 6.
Yeah, I probably would have paid 6.
Yeah.
I mean, if he was 6, it would have been better because I think his ownership would be half what it is. I think 5-5 just made up my mind. I haven't got to think about it. And I don't know what I'll see in the first 5 or 6 weeks to change my mind to mean if I wildcard 7 that I won't still have him. I don't know what will happen to convince me to get rid. I just think he's.
I think we just see every season that like we often start quite big at the back, and then after a few weeks we start having to bring in more expensive players, and I can only see me wanting to upgrade certain players rather than downgrade, because I think like I keep saying, we're going to get these extra premiums coming in. We're going to see, sort of fairly big names maybe hitting the ground running that I want to move to. And the first point of call is that I want a defence that I don't have to mess around with. So I've got Trent as my expensive one, Soufal as my next expensive one at 5, and then 2 4-5s and a 4. And I just think that structure, then a 4-5 keeper, like I don't have to mess around with them to draw more money out, because I've already got my money in midfield and up front. And that's the way I'm looking at it. And whether that's right or not, and maybe Shaw is clearly worth 5-5 and I'm just being an idiot, but I don't know. I still think it's even Shaw at the top of his game can be covered by other players. I just don't see him as like a regular 10+ point
he's
defender
not Trent.
who I've got to own.
He's not at that tier, but I think he's next tier down in terms of, I think he's there with the Chelsea defenders, because I think he'll get more assists, I think, than James or maybe even Chilwell this season.
Fair enough, but there is no way that United are as solid at the back as Chelsea will, even with Varane in.
Not yet. We don't know, but we suspect they're going to get better, right? You've got to think Varane will make it better, right? Don't we?
Well, you would think so, but there's a partnership there, right? Partnerships take time to develop. I don't think Varane's going to come in and suddenly they're going to be this like defensive powerhouse. Well, that's my feelings anyway.
I think it's controversial.
I just think I can roll the dice with him a little bit. I just think I think Chilwell and Cancelo are clear of Shaw, and if I was going to pick one, I'd go for those two over him.
It's interesting. You're talking as if you're definitely going to have 3 heavy hitters at some point this season. Do you see it?
Almost 100%.
Right. Because
I think we're going to need to. We're going to need to.
Yeah.
I think Lukaku game week 7 is going to be in. We could potentially have Kane. I mean, if Kane goes to City, he's a complete lock. And then what? You're not going to have Salah or Mane or Bruno?
No, exactly. I'm not building a team for 3 heavy hitters now. I don't think many people are. I don't see many people going, right, I'm going to have Vardy in as a placeholder for Lukaku or Kane.
Yeah.
Which you could do, but I don't see it happening. I think most people are settling on 2 and then going, I'll wildcard and then think about that later, which is probably what I'll end up doing. But 3 heavy hitters, I mean, it depends what value we see elsewhere, right? If people like Barnes and Benrahma and places like, turn up, and there'll be somebody at 5 million who starts getting goals. Like Damari Gray might get 10 goals or something ridiculous like that. You just never know. There'll be a player like that will emerge, like a Souček, who suddenly is like, well, that frees up cash. He's the enabler, the key for the lock, as Joe used to say. So that could happen, right?
I think in a way we've got a bit lucky, because if the season was starting in a few weeks' time, like, because they've moved the transfer window, haven't they, now, because we were just losing our players and not being able to sign anyone to other leagues. But if Kane was already at City and Son was up front and Sancho was fit and De Bruyne didn't have all his injuries and stuff, and we had all of these options,
it'd be tougher, wouldn't it?
It would be absolute carnage, I reckon. And I think around game week 7 we're going to have that. The game week 7 wildcards are going to be carnage.
Yeah. Yeah, and the budget players are what we're going to need. We're going to need maybe defences that are Trent and all 4-5s at that point. So you're right, Luke Shaw.
Maybe even Trent won't be a.
Yeah, well, maybe not. Maybe Luke Shaw will be our biggest, most expensive defender at that point.
Exactly.
But going without Trent, I'm going to take a lot of convincing to get rid of Trent, I think. Okay, we're going to look at the captain's matrix, because I don't think there's much doubt we're going to go in with Salah, right? But this season, what this does is looks at the next 5 game weeks and just plots the most likely or the primary choice for captain. So it's Salah versus Norwich, Salah versus Burnley game week 2. Then game week 3, it's a bit more of a split, right? You either go Bruno versus Wolves or Son versus Watford, I think. I think there's 2 choices there. Fernandes versus Newcastle game week 4 is the standout. And then game week 5, we're back to Salah at home to Crystal Palace, I think. And then the second column, we've represented the more differential picks, if you like. And this is how we're going to go throughout the season. We're not going to go into data on Salah and Fernandes for this week, because I think it's a foregone conclusion that the majority are going to go Salah. What I am going to do this week, though, is introduce a new thing that we're going to do, which is, and this stems from the fact that last season we identified that in the game weeks where the captaincy is a bit more split, where you're not so certain on the primary choice, they're the game weeks where you need to think, hold on a minute, maybe it's the week to go with a differential captain. And I do think there's something in that, right? So to try and discover those game weeks, what I want to do between us is imagine we've got 10 roulette chips and we can put them on any players for the captain. So you could put 10 on Salah if you like this week, or you can split them and put 7 on Salah, 1 on Fernandes, 1 on Mane. I'm going to ask you to do that for this week just to see if there is... Like if you say, well, I'm only going to put 4 on Salah, I'm going to put 3 on this player and 3 on that player. Suddenly you think, well, if you're not that certain about Salah over the others, is this a week to take a risk then? Right. So that's the theory.
I really like it. I think it's brilliant.
So
go
for it. You've got 10 chips. Where are you going to put them this week?
Because straight away it's made me think, because I'm not putting 10 on Salah. You know, because I don't think he's fully sharp, and I think Mane is someone who, if I had, I would be considering. So yeah, FPL Pot Noodle, if you're listening and fancy recording these, it's interesting to know how many chips. Yeah, how many chips we end up with at the end. I will go for 6 on Salah, and I'll go for 2 on Mane, and I'll go for 2 on Barnes. 2 on Barnes, who's not even on my list. I've just got a feeling. I've just got a feeling about Barnes, and I get these feelings about him sometimes, and I'm a little bit tempted. But the 6 on Salah is a bit reluctant, really. But
yeah, I know.
I just think it's Norwich and Pens, and Liverpool just love scoring against Norwich, and I just think if anyone's going to score, it's going to be him, even with Mane's form that seems to have continued from the end of the season. So yeah, they're my chips. 6-2-2.
And you'll get, what we'll do, we'll keep score, and you'll get 6 times Salah's points, 2 times Mane's points, and 2 times Barnes' points, right? And then it'll
that's a much more complicated way of doing it.
No. We'll keep score as the season goes on to see basically who's. Okay.
So we're doing it in terms of points rather than in terms of chips.
Yeah, afterwards. But it's chips to begin with, just for the purpose of the show. Then we'll calculate it behind the scenes.
Oh God, that changes everything.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, because you're going to get a multiplier of 6 on Salah. That's what you think, right? That's what you're risking.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay.
I'm going to go 5 on Salah, and I'm going to go 5 on Mane. I'm going to go 5 on Mane. I'm going to split mine, which tells me that if it wasn't for Tsimikas, I would be getting Mane in instead of Bruno, I think. And I'm still torn on it, because I do think Mane goes into this game week sharper, in better pre-season form, and I know you can't put too much into that. And if Milner is on the pitch, it's not... You think, Salah's going to get pens for sure. And I guess with the Golden Boot already, game week 1, and he's already thinking about the Golden Boot, you're presuming even if Milner's on the pitch, Salah takes a pen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got no doubt. There's no doubt in my mind, and I'm sure there's Liverpool fans in the chat who can correct me, but I just cannot believe that someone who has routinely taken penalties for Liverpool for the last sort of 1 or 2 years, when Milner's been kind of in and out of the team, is being like their top goal scorer every year. He's going for the Golden Boot again. He's like, desperate and hungry and selfish to score goals. Is suddenly going to just give them up for Milner, who's going to be in the team and play about 4 games all season. Like, no, just no way. I know Milner's got a great record, but Salah's record isn't bad.
No, fair enough. No, all right, I buy it.
I would be amazed if Milner took a penalty over Salah at the weekend. Absolutely amazed.
Okay.
What do you think? Do you just agree?
I think if it's last 10 minutes and it's 0-0, Milner takes it. I think Milner's a better penalty taker. Yeah, I do.
I just can't believe that. It would just be... Yeah,
but then last 10 minutes, Milner's not on the pitch, probably, so probably isn't going to...
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, people in the chat saying no one's gone Bruno, so neither of us have gone any chips on Bruno whatsoever. You're not willing to...
I think Leeds could go either way, right? I think the Leeds we saw at the end of last season were a pretty decent, solid team, and I would be surprised if this is another massively high-scoring match. Then again, Leeds, if you do take any stock in pre-season, Leeds have had a pretty poor pre-season.
They always do, though. Not as poor as Norwich. Norwich is...
No. But you've got to think, going to Old Trafford with the fans back is going to kind of inspire them. I think it's going to be a really good game, but I don't think United are going to win. I don't think they get like 3 or 4 goals, but I'm expecting something from Fernandes. But I think Salah and Mane are clear, and then Barnes is a bit of a punt.
So I think if I had Mane, if I was going with Mane, I'd really consider going with him captain. I think I would. And it's not set. I'm still not set on Bruno over Mane.
So you've come back to the Fernandes camp.
Yeah.
Even though you think Mane is as good a captain option as Salah this week, and they've got better fixtures.
Yeah, I think
Mane.
I think Mane will outscore Bruno in the first two, but after that first two, it becomes a problem. And of course, the issue I've got is I've also got Mahrez in there, so I'm giving myself too much to do by game week 3 and 4. If Mahrez starts becoming like, is he gonna start? And I want to change Mane to Bruno for 3 and 4, I've got a bit of a problem. So that's I'm starting with Bruno.
Why are you looking at the negatives of Mahrez, Mark? Why don't you just look at him as
Well, because
you could absolutely smash it. You shouldn't be setting your set up to fail.
He can play really well, and still, it's not. I don't think he will get dropped very often. I think Mahrez will start 30 games next year. I think it was 23 last season. I think he'll get up to 30. I think he'll be, like De Bruyne, one of the more certain names on the team sheet, because on that right side, Torres is his only real threat. Sterling can go out there, but so I think we'll see Mahrez start most games. But even so, by game week 3 and 4, when you hear Foden's fit and De Bruyne's fit, that's when you start to doubt it, don't you? So I know that's going to happen. Yeah. And I don't want to know that I've got to get rid of Mane for Bruno in game week 3 with that in mind. So that's the only thing. And of course, the Tsimikas thing means that there's a 4 million Liverpool defender there for the first 2 or 3 weeks. And is that a gift we can afford to turn down is what I'm wondering. So you're right. Mane, I think, will outscore Bruno in the first 2. I still think that. So really, I should be on him still, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's what you said on the last episode. You said if you were going to pick one of them, you'd go. I mean, it's a bit like the people who I think have been swayed off Jota because they want Tsimikas. Let's not forget that it's Tsimikas. Liverpool are going to be worse without Robertson, and Tsimikas might have had a good pre-season, but he's no Robertson. I mean, the double up with Trent and Robertson, I can kind of get behind because they've both got the attacking threat, but I'm not as confident with Tsimikas. I'm not expecting like attacking returns like I get from Robertson.
No, but
he's kind of all on the clean sheet, right?
Norwich going to score?
Well, we thought that last time they came up and they scored. They scored
Pookie
got a brace, didn't they?
Yeah, Pookie has had pre-season 73 minutes. So he's played 1 game pre-season, so he's not really ready. Ida's played all 4 or 5 pre-season games. Pookie might not even start. I just can't see Norwich. Campbell's out, I think, as well. He's a doubt. Norwich.
Yeah, how many times do we say that? Man City against Norwich. I cannot see any way in which Man City do not score at least 6 behind this.
No, it won't be that.
Defenders.
I think Norwich are a better team this time around, a bit wiser about it. But I don't think they're going to get routed. But I think goals will be their problem again. I don't see how that's got better for them. They've just lost Buendia. I just don't see where the goals are coming from for Norwich. And that's the problem. So anyone against Norwich, I'm thinking clean sheet. So when you've got a 4 million defender against them, it's difficult. Because that means Jota and Mane have got to score to beat Tsimikas for me, because he's going to get 6 points, I think. So that's why it's more different. Burnley next. Burnley at Anfield. I know they won last year, but again, Burnley are hardly goal threat, are they? And if Van Dijk and Matip are playing...
I guess it's just interesting, and lots of people are saying I'm trying to sway you to certain things. I'm genuinely not deliberately trying to do that. I just think it's interesting that you're much more positive about the likes of Jota and Mane than I am. Like, I'm not really considering them that much.
Are you not?
But you've said you think Jota is the best 7-5, and you think Mane is like an amazing option. You're putting half your chips on him, but then you're locking yourself in with Tsimikas. So if you wanted to move for either of those 2 players, you're just not going to be able to.
It's just the Bruno risk come game week 3 and 4. If I go into game week 4 without him, I'm in trouble, I think. Because I don't see... We've got the matrix up here. Game week 4, Fernandes versus Newcastle. The options are Salah at Leeds, Son at Palace if I have Son. Aubameyang, no one's going to own him. Lukaku, if he comes in by then, at home to Villa, that could be his first game. Calvert-Lewin at home to Burnley. Would I play Salah at Leeds? Possibly. I could captain Salah at Leeds. And it might not be a bad policy to go, look, I'm just going to captain Salah every game and done with it. But, don't know. Fernandes at home to Newcastle.
That's what you were saying. You had Son, didn't you, in your last draft? So.
Yeah, I mean, Son at Palace. If he was playing up front without Kane, I think Son is a captain candidate every week. But with Kane whose head's not with it, I don't know what we're going to get. So, yeah, it's game week 3 and 4. Not having Fernandes when he's going to be captained in 3, not having him in 4 when he's going to be heavily captained. It's a problem. So, yeah, it's FOMO, pure FOMO, that is. Right? I do think Mane's a better short-term.
Do you remember the last time you had FOMO?
What, Werner? Yeah.
Timo Werner.
This is one of my lessons I'm not learning.
Black box lessons, Mark. You do a whole podcast, you and Luke, slating me every opportunity for having Fernandes, and then you get him in because of FOMO. This is a carbon copy of last season.
I think in a way it's different because Bruno's established, Werner wasn't, right? So Werner was a mistake because I was fearful of a player who had no track record in the Premier League and lo and behold didn't deliver. Whereas Bruno is, I think I'm right to be fearful
exactly
of
what
Bruno.
you said? Do you remember exactly what you said about Werner? You were looking ahead and you said game week 6 is the one I'm really worried about because he plays West Brom at home. And you said exactly the same thing.
No, it was 3 or 4. It was early.
Or earlier. Yeah. But it's exactly the same with Bruno. You're looking ahead all those weeks ahead and you're worried about you're FOMOing
2 weeks.
3 weeks ahead. I'm just saying carbon copy.
Yeah, no, it's not over. I'm still thinking about it. And today I haven't really had much time to focus on my team and the night is young, right? And so
the site went down early. Did you see that?
Did it? Ooh.
Couldn't even tinker.
What was that? Lukaku's prize
all
named?
Crashed.
Oh my God. I feel slightly nauseous at that.
It's horrible. Yeah.
Predictions. We're going to do these. Pot Noodle does this for us kindly and we've just given him something else to manage now. But don't worry, I'll manage the chip score in Pot Noodle. Don't worry about that. We don't expect you to do it. It's fine. You're kind enough you do this for us already. So last season I beat you by 32 points. 195 games we predicted. Correct outcome 97-96. How close was that?
I still don't. These points annoy me. I don't understand how these are calculated. I'm going completely by outcome. But
I rang.
And you've changed the decimal percentage again, haven't you?
What? Where? 50%. 50% outcome.
You're a rat bag. You are. You rounded it up, so you look better. That's so you. That is.
Let's look at the fixtures for game week 1. Then let's see if you've put your money where your mouth is because you said a few things tonight. You probably have contradicted completely with these, but let's see.
That doesn't sound like me, Mark.
No, not at all. Okay, Brentford versus Arsenal. You've gone a convincing away win for Arsenal. I've gone 1-1. What's your thinking there then?
I think Arsenal is going to have too much of Brentford. I think people are forgetting that Arsenal are, for all their flaws and problems, they are still a fairly top team in the Premier League. And Brentford have just come up. And I think there's so much expectation around Brentford and what they're capable of. I think they'll probably score, but I think if Arsenal lose or draw with Brentford in game week 1, it's going to be crisis for Arteta straight away. So I think they've got enough. I think they've got enough to get the win. I think they've strengthened quite well. I think there's quite a good mood around the camp at the moment, and they're just going to have too much for them.
Yeah, I don't know. First game of the season, Brentford faithful there. First game in the Premier League. I just think the emotion might just get Brentford a point here. And the promoted teams start well. They get derailed after 5 or 6 weeks, don't they, normally? But so I've gone 1-1. United, Leeds, both gone 2-1. There you go.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I guess it's a pop. We think Leeds are going to score and United win the game. You go 2-1, don't you? So not a rout then by any means. So do you think there's something in it for Bruno? Probably an assist, maybe a penalty, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's definitely something in it. I think there'll be goals in this one. I think I'd be amazed if it was a 0-0 or a 1-0 or something quite small. I don't think it's going to hit the massive heights of 6-1 or anything like that. But yeah, of course there's something for Bruno. I mean, when United score goals, Bruno's normally involved. And I think particularly at the start of the season, with no Sancho there and, Martial having to be in, the burden is going to be on him to be the one that makes things happen.
I'm tempted to go Bamford, I had Bamford in for about 2 or 3 hours last night. And then I've taken him out after the first thing this morning. So I did touch my team this morning. I lied there. Very, very, very close between Bamford and Ings for me.
He massively strikes me as a player who we're all going to be kicking ourselves about. Such good form last season. Had a bit of an injury towards the end, which I think affected him. And then I just think in 2 or 3 weeks we could be like, of course we should have started with Bamford. He was like,
he's in good form. And the thing of what makes me think about Bamford is, I look at it and think, where am I going to get Rafinha in? If Ben Rama does what I think he's going to do and be successful, and if there's value in Smith Rowe or Ben Bromo, where does Rafinha fit in? Maybe I go Mahrez to Rafinha. Maybe that's the move I make. But I want Barnes, right? So I worry that I'm not going to be able to get Rafinha into the midfield, which means Bamford is attractive because I think Bamford will outscore Rafinha still. I think it'll be very close, but depends. And you look at his record last season, and I think he'll get better. I do. I think he'll get better this year. So he's very close for me.
Can I just say, how great is this that we're back on BlackBox doing our score predictions 2 days from the beginning of the season?
It's exciting, isn't it? Yeah, I'm sure Pot Noodle's enjoying it already, like having to get his spreadsheets out. Now, with the games all kicking off at 3:00 on Saturday, barring the Man United Leeds game, there isn't the opportunity to get yourself to a garden centre. But if you were going to choose a fixture to be the garden centre fixture, and this year I'm going to get a little icon to represent the garden centre fixtures.
How dare you?
It would be Burnley Brighton. Let's face it, Burnley Brighton. I've gone 0-0, you've gone 1-1. What are we expecting here? Dull, surely.
I could not disagree more.
Or we get... I can hear Steve-O from Elite FBL screaming at me now, Burnley fan. Burnley, to be fair, at the end of last season, were fantastic. They were a different team the last 10 games. They had a different outlook. They attacked. And Brown, who was in a lot of teams, do we think we'll get that this year, or do you think they're just going to be the pragmatic Sean Dyche team?
It's Barcelona v Barcelona.
Right.
You know, this game, it's going to be absolutely wild, I think. I don't know what we're going to get from Burnley. I mean, their home record was so bad. You've got to think that Dyche is going to be like, what are we doing, boys? We've gone against all the principles I've instilled in you over the last, however long he's been there. I'm sure they're going to have to go back to being a defensive first team, I think. I would just be amazed if they weren't. So that would be my prediction. The fans are going to be back, though. That'll be a massive
happy
lift for
place.
them. Yeah. No, I don't think we're going to get a gung-ho Burnley side. I think he lost his mind a little bit.
Yeah, and Chris Wood's data
I just can't believe we haven't signed a striker yet.
It's grim for Brighton,
what is
isn't
the
it?
board doing? Welbeck got injured.
Welbeck's
and they
out, so
still didn't go out.
it's Mopé, isn't it? You've got to start Mopé. Mopé McAllister, I guess, will it be? And
yeah, it could be Mopé and Trossard.
Connolly's still in there, isn't he? But
he's knocking about.
Slim pickings in it for Brighton.
Just sign Edouard from Celtic. It's been going on all pre-season.
Is Glenn Murray officially retired? Just asking for a friend.
Yeah, okay. he went to. Didn't he go to
Forest? Yeah.
Did he go to you for a bit?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Did all right. Yeah. I liked him. Chelsea Palace. I've gone 2-1. You've gone 2-0. You obviously see the clean sheet. The reason why I've gone 2-1, Vieira, I think will be an attacking manager. He said a lot of things that made me think we're going to get a bit more out of Palace. They've signed some players that I like as well.
They have.
I really like their signings.
Brilliant signings.
Yeah. But it's going to take time to do it. I think they'll get a cheeky goal, so I'm going to go 2-1. No Lukaku yet, but I think Chelsea will have too much for them. 2-0.
Yeah. Well, just like I do every season, I've written Palace off. But I have to say, the signings they've made have been first class. Like really, really talented young players coming in. I just think Vieira's going to need time. I don't know how much he's going to get. And I'd love, hopefully they've learned from De Boer and don't, pull the trigger on him really quickly. Because I think if he is given time,
but the fixtures,
I think he could mould them. But this is it. And I talked about on the last one. I mean, they've got a fixture in game week 2 or 3, I think, which is against like a promoted team. If they don't win in that,
just have a look.
They are in.
So Chelsea, Brentford, game week 2, West Ham, Spurs, Liverpool, Brighton in game week 6. Well, that's a gimme. Yeah. And then Leicester at home. So,
but that Brentford game, Brentford at home is massive because they could go in. They could go into game week 6 with no points.
Yeah.
If they don't win, if they lose that game.
Zaha, talk to me about him. 7 million. I want him to be a factor this season. For the last couple of seasons, I've looked at him, flirted with him. Never wined and dined him though. This season maybe?
No. Well, I hate him.
Yeah, okay.
That's my
irrational.
It's irrational hate. I've never fully regarded him as like a reliable FPL player either though. He's frustrating, right? He's quite patchy. He's often quite hard to predict unless he's playing us. I've always struggled to really put him in that regard. He's just a player that has never really interested me. It's interesting though that Vieira's signed and there hasn't been all these normal noises from him about wanting to move and the transfer rumblings.
And he's done well pre-season.
I think Vieira is actually the perfect manager for him because I think he's a player who needs someone to come in and just be like, "You're my boy, you're my star. We're gonna tear trees up between us." And I think the fact there hasn't been these rumblings means that Vieira's said and done the right things.
There's not been a whisper of Zaha speculation, has there? It's really odd that. It's like...
Always is. Always.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if he signed a new contract or something soon. I think Vieira obviously wants to keep him, and the pre-season form has been good, and he looks happy. So yeah, good signing.
Everton Southampton, I've gone 1-0, you've gone 1-1. I don't see where the goals are going to come from for either team, to be honest, if Calvert-Lewin's not going to play. I mean, that's speculation, by the way, just on the basis that he hasn't appeared yet pre-season. So he could well start, because who else they're going to play? Richarlison's not going to be figuring because of the Olympics. So I see Everton struggling to a 1-0. Who's going to score for Southampton? Armstrong, good signing.
Well, I think this is the Garden Centre game.
Do you?
I think Everton are woeful at the moment. I haven't seen anything good for them pre-season. I think they haven't got half their team. They've got Rodriguez, who wants to leave, openly said he wants to leave. I don't think Calvert-Lewin's going to play. Richarlison's not back. I just Benitez is going to be defensive first anyway.
Damari Gray, telling you.
Yeah.
You know what? I put him in my team for 10 minutes last night. I just did a quick price check. I was like, who else can I get for 5.5? Oh, Damari Gray's going to play up front, I think. I had a look, put him in, put my phone down, rolled over, then quickly turned around and went, no, I better take him out again, just in case I forget and leave him in there. Yeah. It was fun while it lasted.
Leave him in.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think Damari Gray has looked very lively pre-season, and I think he'll get the winner. There you go. Differential pick for you. But,
very nice. Yeah, I mean, I think this could be 0-0. I went with 1-1 to try and jazz it up a bit.
Leicester Wolves, you've got an emphatic win for Leicester. Do you think Wolves are there for the taking then, with a new manager, attacking philosophy? Right.
I think they're going to come into the season a bit naive and play this really attacking open game, and I think they've got loads of negativity last season about the way they played, and I think they're going to want to be like, right, we're going to really go for it this season, and they're just going to get a hammer in game week 1 and be like, oh crap, we better go back to being defensive. I think they're there for the taking this week. Jimenez, I'm really hoping Jimenez it has a great season and scores loads of goals, but he hasn't played for ages, and I want to see him first. But I think he could be a factor at 7 if he comes back. I mean, I don't know if you saw my fan team videos with Ben Dinnery and Lynn, but Ben's obviously like the injury guy, and he is waxing lyrical about Jimenez's recovery and talking about all the different physio and treatment and medical staff and how high their opinions of him and how they've eased him into everything and how they're saying there's no psychological effects and he's heading the ball really well. So he's really, really positive about Jimenez. So yeah, I think after a few weeks we should start to see the best
quality
of him, hopefully,
player.
But I think early on.
And he does look fit in pre-season. Like you look physically, he looks like he's kept himself in shape and he looks fit. It's just the mental impact of that injury. And if we see him go in for headers and not be hampered by it in any way, then he's got to be a player we consider as well. We need him, right? Because the forwards recently, weeks ago, we were like, so many forward options. Now it's like, maybe not so many.
Well,
so
I'm eyeing up possibly an Antonio downgrade to Jimenez because, come game week, 6 or 7 or something, that's when West Ham go into Europe. And I'm not convinced West Ham are going to sign another striker. And I don't know if I want to keep Antonio if he's going to be playing in Europe as well.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
need a few options.
Watford Villa, we've both gone 2-0. I don't see Watford getting a goal from there. I can't see where the goals are coming from. I don't even know who they're going to go with up front to start the season. I don't think João Pedro's ready yet. Fletcher's been playing pre-season quite a bit, I think, and he's been getting goals. But I mean, even if Villa do turn up in a 4-4-2, I don't see Watford scoring. Do you?
No.
And we both gone 2-0. So some.
I can't work out if I've just kind of ignored Watford and to my detriment. I just don't think they're going to do very well.
No,
I can't see what's good about them.
And I've looked at their pre-season minutes, and players like Will Hughes, who I think, he's a decent player. He hasn't appeared pre-season either.
No,
so
he never does.
Missed some key players.
He's always a player I've liked, Will Hughes, but he's come up a few times with them and never really done anything, and I can't see that really changing now. I
don't know enough about what the first 11 will be on game week 1. So, I'm 2-0 Villa. Norwich Liverpool, I've gone 3-0, you've gone 2-0. It's not looking good for the promoted teams, is it? Game week 1.
No. Well, you're back in Brentford to get a point. That would be a pretty good. That's about it. Pretty good point for them.
Emphatic win for Liverpool, I think.
If Norwich get a goal against Liverpool, I'd say they've done pretty well. I'm not. Liverpool are a strange side though, because I'm not really factoring them into any kind of title challenge this year, because I don't think they've strengthened, but they're weaker Obviously, they've got Van Dijk back, but they've lost Wijnaldum, who I think is I just don't think we can underestimate how big a bigger loss that's going to be. He's been such a big player for them. Haven't replaced him. They're going to lose Salah and Mane to the African Cup of Nations.
Yeah, that's going to be a blow. Yeah,
which is massive. They haven't signed any replacements really. I mean, they were linked with like Bowen and Watkins and stuff, but nothing. I don't think anything like that's going to happen. So I think they're a weaker side than they have been than we've seen in the last few years. And yeah, I think Chelsea and City are just too strong, and United as well, having strength.
I think Bowen will go. He's faded in pre-season, not been getting in the team, and it's coincided with the speculation. I think there's something happening there. Newcastle, West Ham, 3-1 West Ham.
Yeah, you got big.
Too much for them. I think West Ham have played a lot of pre-season games. Done well, looks positive. Antonio's played almost every one. He looks like he's raring to go. Right? And fitness concerns of him have just evaporated. With a lot of managers going in with Antonio, quite rightly. And Newcastle, I don't think they're ready yet. You know, they need Willock in there and settled down. They need Sam Maximin fit, and there's doubts about his fitness again. There's speculation about his future still. Wilson, I think Wilson's all right now, but I don't know. They need bedding down. They need time, and they've got both their keepers out. So Woodman's going to start the season. So that breeds uncertainty at the back. I think they're there for the taking. And West Ham aren't a good team to play at the moment. I think West Ham will fly out the box. So I've gone 3-1.
See, I actually think this could be one of the upsets. I think.
What 1-0 would be an upset to West Ham?
I haven't really got anything to base it on, but I've just got a funny feeling that Wilson's going to have a say in this game and get something, and you know, West Ham will just dominate the match, and then Wilson will score in the last minute, and it'll be a 1-1. I mean, he loves doing that. So I've just gone for a kind of a narrow West Ham win, but I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle did get a point in this. It's early days, isn't it? And I think West Ham are obviously the better side, but it's a bit of a leveller at this stage, and I think Newcastle are going to set up to defend. They've got the home crowd, which is going to be huge for them. I mean, you can say that for any home side, but it's particularly big at St James's Park. Yeah,
true.
I'll stick with my 1-0, but yeah, like I said, I wouldn't be too surprised if it was 1-1.
And the final game, Spurs-Man City. We've both got a Man City win, both got a Spurs goaler. I do think there's a goal in it for Son, because I think City will give up some chances in the first few games anyway, while they get settled. But yeah, it's a win for City, 3 points, right?
They were really poor against Leicester, and I don't think they're ready. You talk about teams not being ready. I mean, they haven't got their players back. I mean, Pep just used that as a training game. He did tell from his T-shirt on that he didn't care about it at all. But do I think Spurs are ready either? I mean, not really. I still think this Kane thing is just huge, and I think it's probably the best time to play City for Spurs, and they probably will look forward to it with a bit of optimism. But I think City will just have a bit too much for them. Yeah,
we agree with that. Well, good luck. Thanks, Pot Noodle, again for putting those together. Good luck, Az, for the first week. We'll see how we go. Let's look at our teams then. They've been screaming for an hour and a half already, or maybe longer than that. This is how you stand at the moment then, Az. How certain is this? Do you want to go through it?
Yeah, so Sanchez in goal, Trent, Soufal, Tsimikas. How the hell have I done with
Very good.
Tsimikas? I keep looking at him and thinking, what's going on? Salah captain, Fernandes, Jack Grealish, Barnes, Ings, Antonio, and Toney clinging on at this stage, and then Foster, White, Brownhill, and Eiling. I mean, obviously the press conferences over the next 2 days are going to be big. I want to hear, you know, if Pep comes out and says Grealish isn't ready to start, then I can't go for him. So it's going to make a decision there. It's the same with the likes of Barnes. I mean, even the likes of like Tsimikas, if Klopp says something that indicates that he's not going to play, you know, Tsimikas isn't ready to start, but he, you know, I don't know, you know, you never know. There could be something. So it's fairly locked in if everyone's fit. I think the big decision for me is Toney, and the trouble is if it was just a straight up choice between Toney like Rafinha or Buendia, I'd obviously go for it. But the biggest problem for me is switching to that 5 in midfield and then having an Obafemi on the bench.
Why is that a problem? Because that's what I'm going with. Why is that a problem?
It's a problem because I'm going to have Tsimikas and Obafemi and then White. So I'm only, in 3 weeks' time, I'm only going to have White as a playing sub. And in the last episode, I was saying that I wanted to have a fairly strong bench because I know that things happen and I might want to bring players in. So, you know, that is the kind of... It will mean that I'm going to be Trent, Soufal and one of White or Eiling. And do I love the idea of playing White or Eiling every week? Not really. So yeah, it's a little bit of a problem. And like, you know, it seems ridiculous to not get a player in because I'm going to go for because I can have Brownhill over Obafemi, who I'm almost certainly not going to play.
Yeah, that is a point. You are fearing not being able the opportunity to play Brownhill, so it's hardly massive.
Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous, but yeah, it goes against what I said, you know, recently, which was having that kind of slightly stronger bench. I think if Buendia's fit, I think I will go for him though. Over Toney.
Who? Over Toney, right?
Yeah, so I'd move Toney to Buendia, target those first three, and then look to move him to Rafinha after a few weeks. Because you know the games are quite tough for Leeds. I think they should still score and stuff, but United and then Everton is quite tough. And then so that's it.
So
that's my team. There's certain players here who are locked: Sanchez, Trent, Soufal, Salah, Fernandes, Barnes, Ings, Antonio, White. They're all locked. So over half my team is in. It's just going to be a few changes. And Grealish is if the signs are that he's going to start.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'm the same as you with Tsimikas. I do worry because that's going to give us a problem. So because I've got, doesn't matter who it is. I've got Perica at the moment because Obafemi's going to leave. It seems going to go to Rovers if he hasn't already. So I'm going Sanchez, Trent, Tsimikas, Luke Shaw, Matty Cash, Bruno.
Oh,
Mahrez,
you're going after
Salah,
Cash again, are you?
Benrahma, Ings, and Antonio, and Smith Rowe, Ayling, Perica is the bench. And you're absolutely right. So when Tsimikas is not selected because Robertson's fit, which will probably be after the break, I think. I can't see it before the break. If Klopp has come out and said before or after the break. Why would you throw him in game week 4 when there's no need to, or game week 3 when there's no need to? You got a break immediately after. So I don't.
He'll come back in after the international. I
think so. So we've got until then to kind of revise our squads as best we can. And what I'm banking on is that I want to get rid of Mahrez by game week 3, and that, I won't make a transfer game week 1, game week 2, and I'll have 2 into game week 3, and one of those transfers will be Mahrez, and then do something with the money, I think. But then if Mahrez absolutely flies, which let's face it, that's why I've got him, maybe I'll change my mind. So difficult.
I hate it when I say things about your team. Because everyone in the chat goes, "Why are you saying things about Mark's team?"
No, go on, go ahead. That's what you're here for.
Well, I can't understand why you're benching Smith Rowe and playing
that's a big decision.
Tsimikas. Like you could avoid the Tsimikas problem straight away just by playing Smith Rowe and getting in Amity or I'll tell you the other 4 million that I like is that Southampton Liveramento. I think he's the one that actually has the best potential to be a playing 4 million
eventually,
defender.
Yeah. Not yet, but
eventually. It's especially because you've been talking about Jota and Mane so much, you could just avoid that headache altogether by just playing Smith Rowe. You also, even like Short, for example, you're banking Leeds to score.
Not have Tsimikas at all.
Yeah. Just play Smith Rowe.
No, exactly. Basically, this only broke really yesterday, wasn't it? Right. So I haven't changed it much at all today. So I need to give it some more thought. But yesterday there was a lot of changes about let's have Tsimikas because it seems like a gift. So this is off the back of that. So I think Tsimikas is the key player, right? If I don't go with him, it changes quite a lot. Absolutely. And the big dilemma if I do go with this is
that's
Smith
a soundbite right there. Tsimikas is the key player.
Well, it is though, isn't it, for a lot of people, because that is filling up your third Liverpool slot. And then if you're considering Mane or Jota, that changes everywhere, I think. It is for me.
I've another question.
Go on.
Why have you got Smith Rowe and not Mbeumo? You haven't even got Toney.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing I'm looking at is Mbeumo or Smith Rowe. I've swapped them all away. That's why that was the slot I put Damari Gray in for 10 minutes last night. So that slot's not nailed. Because I look at Smith Rowe.
On Brentford doing well.
Yeah, I do think they'll get a couple of goals in the first few weeks. Yeah, and I like Mbeumo at 5-5 because I think they're going to play 3 at the back, which will mean 2 up front. So I think he'll be up front. And he can offer me something, I think, at 5-5. I like him. But Smith Rowe, I think, long-term looks like the class safe 5-5 pick, if there is one. Because I think he'll get 30-plus games in the number 10, I think, unless they make a sign and then change their system. So I like Smith Rowe, just not for the first 3. I don't see where Smith Rowe plays for me in the first 3. It's not until game week 4 that he becomes a factor. And therefore I'm thinking, do I just go Mbeumo and again move to Smith Rowe later? But it's booking in a transfer, as they would say. So you have to be careful about not doing that as well. Cash I like because although I haven't got Martinez, I like Villa's defence more than their attack for the first three. Why do you feel... What's wrong with Cash? I think he's their best defensive option.
I think you're missing my joke about you loving Cash.
Oh, right. Okay, no, I see. I get it.
Fest fantasy.
Thanks very much. Yeah, good reference to that. Yeah.
I wondered why you were ignoring that.
No, I do love Cash. I think people saying about Target, if they go wing back, so it would be Cash for me. Because I think he's got goals in him, whereas Target...
Another great... So many sound bites here.
I know. Well, shame you can't catch them. But yeah, I like him for the first three. But again, that's another transfer I'm booking in because I'm thinking long-term Soufal's a better 5 million option, I think. I agree with you, but I just think Cash will outscore him over the first three. So it's a lot of balancing up between am I getting my team for the first three or am I getting them for longer? And then you've got the wild card in 7 to think about. So the longer it may only be 7 weeks. So surely you just play what's in front of you and that is better fixtures for Villa. So that's why it's Cash at the moment.
I think you've got a team here of regret picks.
A team of regret.
That's my analysis. I mean, Cash to me is a great. I mean, I would.
Why are you against him? You go for Target.
I just go for Target. I go for Target any day, because he's more attacking. His stats are better.
Well, he was more attacking last year with Grealish on the left, but we haven't got. It's a completely different system and players. We don't know what they're going to do. And I know Cash has got a goal in him, right, from his Forest days. He was a winger, and I think he's going to do better this year. I think he's going to get 3 or 4 goals this year, I think, for them. That's my prediction on Cash. And he might get one in the first few weeks. And,
okay.
They're all 5 million, aren't they?
Right
That's
about
the
these
thing.
things.
I do like him over Target. I do. I mean, so much could change here. And it is dependent on whether I go the Simicast thing. But I think an Ings and Bamford is a really tight call for me. I had Bamford in this morning and changed it back to Ings. I like Ings obviously for the 3, but I think Bamford in the first 5 or 6 will catch him up and outscore him. And I want a Leeds attacker, and if I for some reason don't think I've got room for Rafinha, and it's possible we won't have room for Rafinha, then not having a Leeds attacker worries me a bit. So Ings to Bamford is an early transfer.
I would bet considerable amount of money on you starting the season with Rafinha. No, I just don't think you'd better resist it.
I'm not going to.
No. Well, good job. I'm not going to bet considerable amount.
No, I'm not going to. I want to see Leeds for a couple of games yet. Bamford, I'm more sold on. I think I'm more convinced that Bamford will produce what he produced last season. Whereas Rafinha, I think he's more dependent on systems and on set pieces. So,
God, I've done loads of team reveals this week on Scout of different teams, and they're all kind of the same. This is like a fever dream.
Surely that's not any different to some of the things you've seen. I think it's very template. Of course
it is.
Why? Why? Ben Rama and Mahrez.
Ben Rama. You've got Smith Rowe on the bench. You're 4 at the back for some reason.
I wouldn't. Normally it's going to be 3-5-2. So normally it would be 3-5-2, and then Cash gets downgraded, I guess, eventually. But the first 3, Smith Rowe doesn't have fixtures that you want to play him, as Cash has, right? So that's why it's this system at the moment. But,
after all these weeks, if you go full template, I really am going to be disappointed in you, because you've really dangled a carrot that you're going to be a differential team in game week 1. You've got Fernandes in this team. I'll let you off that, but I want to see a couple of punts in there.
Well, I thought you just said this is crazy. It
is. If you went with this come Friday at Fest, I would be.
Would you?
I'll buy you a drink.
I don't think it's miles off what I'm going to go for, because I think I'm quite happy with it, but there's still some unanswered questions in my head. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not going to doubt you.
I didn't expect that extreme reaction. I don't think it's that controversial. I think it's pretty vanilla. I think, apart from Ben Rama and Mahrez, I think it's pretty template. Most people are going to have a Villa defender, I would have thought, of some kind, if or not Martinez. Not on Twitter, maybe, but out there, I would say. Let's see. Let's check in with the lessons, just to make sure that we've referred to them throughout. These are some of the things that we picked up after last season. And this first one here...
Oh, it's just me, isn't it?
Don't change your entire initial lineup at the last minute to include one player. Is that not Grealish and Barnes for you at the moment? Have you not changed it?
Do you know what? I was genuinely thinking that when I made the transfers. But I'll tell you who I took out. I took out Rafinha and Chilwell for Simicast and Grealish. And Chilwell hasn't played at all pre-season.
No.
And so I was thinking about maybe Cancelo, but then I'm still a little bit not too sure about Cancelo's minutes. And Tsimikas did seem like a bit of a gift. And when I got that money, I thought, okay, I could upgrade with Finner. So it wasn't like what I did last time when I took out like 4 players. It's a bit more of a 50-50. I think if Chilwell was fit, I think Chilwell and Rafinha is superior to Tsimikas and Grealish. But with Chilwell not fully ready and him just having that, it's that game week 1 game, right? There's no point in having him and then for the rest of his fixtures. So, yeah, I don't think I've torn up my team for Grealish. I think the general structure of my team is pretty good, and I've got as much money as I want to put in my defence initially. So, yeah, last season I changed everything. I changed my structure. I changed like 4 players. So, yeah, it's not quite the same is how I'm looking at it.
You know what?
Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
I've done it. I've torn it all up for Tsimikas, basically, because when that broke, I changed all my plans on the basis that, I really need that 4 million Liverpool defender, and it's obvious. So I've got to watch this one, and I've got to consider that top one for sure, because it has. I think it's changed a lot of people's outlook, that news that Robertson was out and Tsimikas is probably likely to start. Because it almost seems too good to be true, and you've got to react to it. And then it's surprising how that changes your team, because suddenly you've got extra cash, and that third Liverpool slot has gone. So it does change quite a lot. So I've definitely got to test that.
You've definitely got extra cash.
Very good. Second one, avoid any highly owned player who is not certain to start, even if a manager comments increase confidence. And that's
a
Toney,
great lesson.
Right? That's Toney, right? Because Frank's come out and said, there's no, no way we'll keep him off the team sheet for Arsenal. But I don't know if we should be convinced by it, because this was what happened with me last year with Pulisic. Lampard said, he should be fine, he'll be back in training on Monday. And then Pulisic didn't play at Brighton. Didn't play at all and was out. He got to be fair, he did return to training, I think, and then he broke down again, didn't he? But I fell for that. And so any player that's an injury doubt, we shouldn't be considering. I don't think you're not going to class Barnes as an injury doubt. He's not, right? So I don't think either of us have got that.
It doesn't just say injury doubt. It says any highly owned player who is not certain to start. And Mahrez definitely falls into that bracket.
He's certain to start. He absolutely nailed on.
Grealish falls into that bracket.
Yeah, Grealish
as
maybe.
Well.
Yeah, but
Tsimikas falls into that bracket.
Is he?
Imagine Klopp in his press conference being like, it's all right, we've got Tsimikas there, he's a great player, he's had a great pre-season, and then boom, Milner left back.
Yeah, it could happen, but then that's why Smith Rowe's there for me. I've got that backup, I guess. But
you have, yeah. Well, I've got Ben White, so that's one of the reasons why I'll be happy not to go in with Toney, because then I feel at least there's not a clash.
And avoid any player who has recently returned from injury if a manager's comments on that's twice we've got that in there.
That's Barnes.
Yeah. Same kind of thing, but recently returned from injury, right?
Well, that is Barnes, right?
Yeah, it is a bit. Injury. It is a bit, but I think, we've seen enough of him pre-season to know he's not going to break down.
Yeah. I think he's likely for a 60, 70 minutes. I'm prepared for a fairly early sub for him, but hopefully he can do the damage. I haven't got any other players just returning from injury.
No, I think it's a good watch thing, because I don't think it's happened this season very much. But if a player has only just returned from injury, like Pukki, for example, he returned from injury, had 60 minutes the other day. I don't think he'll start against Liverpool necessarily, because he hasn't had enough pre-season and he's returned from injury. So a player like that is what you should avoid. Don't be swayed by high ownership when selecting your initial squad. This is the Werner thing, right? That's the Werner lesson. Now, is Bruno doing that to me? Absolutely. So I'm not sticking to this lesson, am I, with that? But
no,
then
you're not.
If I didn't go Bruno, you would probably say that was a mistake and what am I doing? So...
you can't win. Yeah.
No,
whatever you do is...
No.
With me here, I'll find a way to twist it.
It's so difficult.
I'm obeying this, not going with Shaw.
Yeah, you are, but I think you're making a mistake with that. But
yeah, you might be right.
Yeah, you are. I mean... So I just need to check through these. This is like a checklist before we press commit.
I think it's a really solid list of things to try and avoid.
And these later ones, these later ones are for in the season. Don't let potential price drops be too powerful as a tiebreaker for transfers. We've all done it, haven't we? He's going down tomorrow. So which 2 players should I get rid of? I'll get rid of the one that's going to go down in price. Well, don't let that convince you. I'm always doing that.
Yeah, I think that is an important one for early in the season, though, because that is where the price drops hurt the most. So
Yeah.
Vinagre, for example, really hurt because he went down to 4-4. Well, I had to move him out before he went down to 4-4 because I wanted to get a 4-5 defender. So what do you think? That's a good question for you, though. If you had a 4-5 defender who, say, didn't play game week 1 and he was about to go down in price, would you take a hit to move him out for 4-5 just so you've got an option?
I
still think you have to, though.
Yeah, I think I probably would because I'm all for value and locking it in early season, right?
You can't be stuck with a 4-4 non-playing defender.
Not really, no, because you've got nowhere to go with that.
No.
Tsimikas and Amate aren't going to be around forever, so you no. Okay, prioritise low scoring and inactive players when making transfers. Absolutely, that's a mantra that we've got to use this season. Always prioritise a player likely to start rather than rotation risk if there's a likelihood they will come on. Yeah, I mean that's Cancelo, right? That's the trouble with him.
Cavani.
And Reece James and players like that, right?
I think Cavani's a great example of that. Because I see Cavani in quite a few teams, and I think he's a player he'll come in every game. Yeah. He's 50-50 to start, but he'll almost certainly come on.
And that's
he's hard avoid for me.
And Mahrez is that as well. If he doesn't play, he'll come on. Yep. And Cancelo, that's what worries me about Cancelo. I worry that he's not going to play the game weeks we want him for, like Norwich game week 2. And when he doesn't play, he'll come on with 30 minutes to go or something and get you the point. And that worries me a bit. And don't underestimate form opportunities as a reason to play the first wildcard. Exactly right. What that's saying is, just because your team's not broken, if there's a fixture swing and a chance to get on some players who are going to run into form, use your wildcard. And that's what we've got to remember ahead of that Chelsea run. Like, even if I'm in the top 10k, I should still consider it because of that Chelsea run. Even if you're in the top 10k, that could equally happen, of course.
Thank you,
Mark. Be careful. And show caution when investing in teams in transition, right? Aston Villa. They're in transition. And you're going with 2 of their players.
I'm going with 2 of them, yeah. Oh, the fixtures are so good. If the fixtures were average, I'd show some caution, but those 3 are just so good, right?
Well, I've got 2 of their players as well, although one of them's a defender at the moment.
Yeah. Maybe Buendia is I don't know.
I think it's too much.
Might be too much.
Yeah. We'll see. Anyway, one more thing. This is the FPL challenge that we're doing this season that you've signed us up for. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
I have indeed. So FPL Greece, who I think is in the chat, he's a Scout affiliate as well. Hi, if you're watching. Asked us if you wanted to be part of this. It's a really nice initiative. It's essentially, there's an app you can go on called Share the Meal. It's it's done by the World Health Organization, or it's a proper thing. But essentially, he set up something called the FPL Challenge, which basically is every time you get a green arrow, you donate some money, and that money goes to feed hungry people around the world. So you and I, Mark, have agreed every time we get a green arrow, we'll donate £5 each. So maximum of £10 if we both get a green arrow, and we'll do that throughout the season. So I would urge anyone listening who fancies doing that. I was thinking about it though, it makes your green arrows even better because you're going to be feeding someone hungry, but it makes your red arrows even worse because someone might go hungry because you haven't fed them.
Don't say that, that's even worse.
I know,
it's a horrible way.
It's a horrible way of looking at it, isn't it? So basically we need to just keep getting green arrows all season to feed the world. But if you're interested in this, download the app. There's a QR code on your screen that you can just zap with your phone, and then you can get involved with this. And you can start. You don't have to donate £5 if you just want to donate. I think the minimum is like 65p. So it's a nice little way to do your bit for the world.
Lovely stuff. As BlackBox League, you've talked about it already. Do you want to get another plug? The code is at the bottom there. I will give it
another plug. Yeah, we've got nearly 2,000 people watching live, which is still blows my mind when I see those kind of numbers. It's crazy. But yeah, just another push for the BlackBox League. The code is VJNG38.
Could have done that better, couldn't we? Never mind, but yeah, that's fine.
We could. There's a link. Follow the link in the description.
Yeah, just do that. It's much easier. I'm in the Bigs and Smalls League as well, which is a league for father and son combinations. Oh, we just had a noise there out of the thing. You missed that, didn't you? Missed that. We've just gone up to 16.2k subscribers.
Do you want to just tell the viewers what noise it makes, Mark?
I've set it to make a cash register noise, all right? Just for a joke, all right? Just to feed your narrative a bit more. So every time we go up 100 subscribers, that makes a cash register noise behind us.
Thank you for whoever's subscribed.
Yeah. 100 people did since we started the show. That's good.
Amazing.
Subscribe. Hit the subscribe button and make it go thing again. It could. If there's 100 people out there now, make that happen any minute now.
I wish that had happened when we were talking about
I
cash.
know, that would have been really good. The Bigs and Smalls League, me and Billy are in it, competing against dads and their sons or daughters. So we'll see how that goes. It'll be combined scores. It'll be really good. So looking forward to that.
That's really cool.
Ragabolly, the turning point tool. The turning point tool enables us to use the planner and branch a team off, and then that team will run in parallel to your actual team, and so you'll be able to see what you would have done, how you would have fared if you'd have made that decision. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pick a team with Mane in instead of Bruno, put that in the planner, and then in 3 or 4 weeks I'll be able to see, well, where would I have been if I'd have done that, right? It could be awful for us. It could be absolutely punishing. But the beauty of this is you can do things like, right, I'm going to branch now, and I'm going to pretend I'm going to do a bench boost now and see what that bench boost would have got. And then, of course, you can maintain those teams for a few weeks and then see how they would have turned out. You've obviously got to make the same transfers on both teams, but that's a little bit of work. So we will be using this turning point tool over the course of the season to track how, when we've got a split decision on something in our heads, how that goes, basically. We're just going to end then. No, it didn't. So, yes.
Craig in the chat says Ragabolly's created a torture device.
Yeah. It is, well, it is, but it's going to be really good for us because we'll be able to assess what that decision cost us, right? Because we'll be able to branch off. Yeah, I know, the agony.
I don't want to do
the
that.
agony. I thought it was a good idea. I don't know.
It is a good idea, but it's also the worst idea I've ever heard.
Well, yeah, I'm going to set up the Mane team and in 4 weeks' time look back and go, oh, God, look at that. You're going to do a bench boost team, are you? Yeah, so all you've got to do is set a plan up in the planner, in Live FPL's planner, and then Ragabolly will branch it for us and tell us how it's going to go.
Cheers, Ragabolly.
Yeah, and thanks again, Ragabolly, for the data that contributed to this week's show, which was the 20K, the top 20 player data. That was excellent. He's my go-to. Whenever I need data last minute, straight to Ragabolly. He's got it. You name it, he's got it.
That guy. Unbelievable.
Incredible. Round up Apprentice. What's happening next on the Apprentice, Az?
So we did a video with Nat the other day, which is on the channel if you haven't seen that already. Spoilers, she's awesome and so really invested
already
in FPL and stats and great. And it's me showing her some of the tools and things that I use to make my decisions. So check that out. You're talking to Henry tomorrow.
Yeah. Video will go up tomorrow night with his final team in, probably, unless he makes any changes Friday. But who does that?
Crazy.
And then on Friday we're both at Fest. So if you're coming to Fest, come and say hello. If you're not coming to Fest, get a ticket. There's still tickets going. It's in Waterloo, in London. You've
got to come to Fest.
Yeah.
If you're on the fence, maybe if you're a bit worried about not knowing anyone or anything like that.
Oh yeah, don't worry about that.
There's going to be loads of people in the same boat. You can always come find one of me or Mark, and we'll have a drink with you, have a chat with you, introduce you to some people. Honestly, it's going to be a really, really fun day. So if you are, maybe you've got a ticket, but you're thinking, oh, I'm not sure if I really want to go, or maybe you're debating getting a ticket. Honestly, just come. I guarantee you'll have a great time.
I need it just to signal the end of this 2 or 3 weeks of. It's been really hard actually, and I'll just be glad when the deadline's passed and it's like, right, now we can just play it week to week.
Now we can relax
because it's been really difficult, and there's still 24 hours to go, 48 hours to go before we finally say press that button.
Mark, you've got to tell the story of Andy Mack.
Oh yeah, so Andy Mack is lending me his house for Fest, so I'm staying at his house because he just volunteered and said, oh look, if you're looking for a place, because I was going to come to London with my family, but as it turns out they're going to go on to the wedding and I'm going to come later. But Andy said, oh, you can still stay at my house. So I'm staying at his house while he's on holiday. So I've got the house to myself. And I was on WhatsApp with Andy Mack late at night, and I was on Az was in one channel and Andy Mack was on the other. And I was chatting to both of you, wasn't I? And I was chatting to Andy going, oh, Az is going to be so jealous. And then I was chatting to you going, oh, Az, look, I'm staying at Andy Mack's house. He says there's Brewdog in the fridge and everything. And then I didn't chat to either of them for a while. And then I got a message back, and thinking it was you replying to me, I put, oh yeah, I'm dreading it. I'm going to be sick all over his house, aren't I? And I was talking to Andy Mack. So in Andy Mack's channel, I'd said to him, I'm going to be sick all over your house. I was absolutely mortified.
And then you messaged me like, you won't believe what I've just said to
no, I couldn't believe it. And so I had to quickly repair it. But Andy, I won't really be sick all over your house. I mean,
oh my God.
And he was, bless him, he was so good about it. He was, you know what he said? He said, you have a good time, knock yourself out. He was like saying, you've got license to be sick all over. No, I'm sure he wasn't, but that's what he was such a lovely guy. But
he's gone out today and installed like nanny cams all around the house.
Well, I do worry about that. He has texted me to say there's stuff in the fridge for me and all that. Oh, it's fantastic. So I will be staying over at Andy Mack's house, which will create a little story, and he'll forever be known as my landlord. So there you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just an example of how close this community can be. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
So yes, see you at Fest. Hopefully we will see plenty of you there. It'll be a good evening, and then we can see in the season together. We're going to do a QA, aren't we? A live QA after the show. So we're going to end the show here, come back in about 5 minutes. And if you want some questions answered in chat, we're going to be about doing just that in about 5 minutes' time. So join us then. But for now, I guess, it's a good night for me.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you in a minute.